fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration. Next week, I will not have an episode. All right, next week, I will not have an episode. That's Christmas week. Y'all know how I'm about Christmas. That's my jam. And so I do most of my shopping on Sundays. And because you work so late, like yesterday was terrible again. Just a disaster of a day for parcels. And so, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. But yeah, you get off so late during the week, it's very difficult to do any shopping. And so next Sunday, I will not have an episode. I will be back the next Sunday, all right? And we'll talk about kind of a year-end review. We'll go over some screenshots. I like the salted peanuts editions. I like where we've headed with that. A lot of people reach out liking the salted peanuts. I like current topics, things that I see that are happening in real time right now, and so that we can address those. Whiteboards is a perfect example, our office time, things like that where we immediately came on here and addressed it. I think that our business agents have failed us as far as that's concerned. They don't get out templates. They don't get out education. They're, you got some good ones. You got a majority that are worthless pieces of shit. And so, but what we'll do here is the salted peanuts is we're going to do current topics, okay? Now, my man JB is back today. I'll talk about that in just a second. Make sure, I'm going to tell you now, have a pen and paper. Have a pen and paper. My man is fixing to put some education on you. It's education on steroids. All right? Make sure you have a pen and paper because he goes over a lot of reports. But anyway, I'll get to that in just a second. The most important news to me is this past Thursday, my region, Region 8, finally has hope. Finally has hope. My president, Dana Chambliss, announced that she's going to be running for MBA for Region 8 in 2026. I could not be more excited for the city letter carriers in this region. We have so desperately needed leadership. I have said long ago, that the president of this union is a coward. And he is. He is a coward. He is not a leader of men. He is a coward run by cowardice. And those tentacles of that cowardice have reached down into our business agents' offices. I said that several years ago. Mine is one of those. My business agent's office is led by cowardice on a biblical scale. Pride has ruined that office. And so, and I will say it. There are those down there that work there that say it to me. They would never say it publicly. I will say it publicly. Pride has ruined this region. And so thank God Dana said yes. And this is somebody that James Henry and I had targeted a long, long time ago. It was not an easy decision for her. She is a fantastic president of this branch. And JB will be stepping into that role. I'm sure he's the vice president, so they're still going to be in great hands. But I've never seen a leader like Dana. I just haven't. When you talk about the ingredients that you want for a leader, she's got all of them. She has got all of them. So when she finally said yes, I was ecstatic for the members of this region. And so Region 8, Tennessee, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, you have got a star running for MBA next year. And I could not be more excited. And so just look at Louisiana, New Orleans. 18,000 cases pending B. And that's a majority of the cases pending B. I think there's right at 40. New Orleans has the most. Completely unacceptable. That's an understatement. I cannot make up words to express how demoralizing that is to our members. I just can't. And that's the failure of our business agent. And so many things. The pride, like I said, blackballing people, not just me. Hell, I put myself out there to be blackballed when I started this podcast. What's funny is, I had people approaching me saying, hey, National probably want to co-opt this podcast because it's become so popular. And I told them, yeah, so you can come on here whenever you want. And instead of that, they blackballed me, which is fine. I put myself out there. There are others that they have blackballed for pride purposes only. Got to get away from that. And she will. She has more integrity than just about anybody I've ever met. And is a straight up star. When she goes in meetings, and I was talking about this at the union meeting when she came out and said she's going to run. Whenever you go into a meeting with management, you make sure you're the alpha in that meeting. They will try to. They'll bring people in there, and they will try to talk to us like we're second-class citizens. And you've got to be the alpha. She is always the alpha in any meeting. Complete badass. And so, yeah, she's going to be a fantastic business agent, and I cannot wait. So that was the announcement I've been wanting to make forever, but I couldn't because I was waiting on her to come out officially. And Thursday at the union meeting, she did that. I made a motion that we endorsed her as branch 4 for NBA. Overwhelming, unanimous that they did that. And so, great news. Fantastic news. Mallory and Cole. I think Cole's going to come on here in a couple of weeks and just say thank you. I announced that they had that baby registry. I guess that's what it's called. Been a long time since I've had a baby. So, baby registry put on from 8arbitration.com. That was against Mallory's wishes. I tell you, she is not like that. She does not reach out and say, will you please do that? She does not do that. And she does not like that. But when I saw it, I said, hey, put that up there because to me, people owe her that. As much as she has done on from 8arbitration.com and other things that she's done, to me, it's a small gesture to get on from 8arbitration.com, click on that baby registry, and spend a couple of bucks helping them out with their new baby. And so the response was overwhelming, and I cannot thank y'all enough. I don't ask for money on here, never will, but somebody that helps me out like that, I will do it for them. And so the response was overwhelming. Fantastic stuff. And so if you haven't, get on there. There's still probably some stuff on there that they need. But I cannot thank you enough for doing that. Now starting next year, it's the push, right? 2026, it's the big push, getting ready for national convention where nominations and the election. I will be, as much as I hate it, I will be talking a lot about donating to the CLC because we are going to do a mailing. I believe we're the only ones that will do a mailing. That is expensive. And so as much as I hate asking for stuff, next year I'll start doing that. Asking that you go to concernlettercarriers.com and donating $5, $10, whatever you can. I know it's hard to ask people that are shit on like we are with our contract, and you got so many, our dues are going up, health insurance premiums going up, everything's going up, and we got a shitty ass TA that was forced on us by our shitty ass president, and here we come saying, hey, give us some money. And so it's like every time you go to church, you take your friend to church, your pastor preaches on tithing. And that's what I feel like, but it's a necessary evil. And we're going to have to ask for donations because we are going to do a mailing. That's that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so next year I'll start doing that. I'm not going to do it during December because people are trying to get through Christmas. But yeah, get on from 8arbitration.com. Click on that link for Mallory and Cole. If you see a little something you can get it for them, okay? But the response has been overwhelming. And I know that Cole he called me and wants to come on here and thank y'all. And we'll probably do that, in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, I won't have one next week. Uniform guy. make sure if you need your uniforms, the guy that I put on my podcast on my from 8arbitration.com is the only one I will suggest to y'all. If y'all have your own, use them. But this guy is a true city letter carrier supporter. Every time I see this guy, he is all about the city letter carrier. It's not about business to him. He's about the city letter carrier. A lot of them work for a business and they're trying to get your business. This guy's city letter carrier through and through. And that's the reason I support him. And he's the only one that I will allow on my Facebook, on my website. He does not give me a cent. He does not give me one penny to do that. And hand the Bible. He does not give me any money to do that. Okay? He's never offered me any, but I asked to be able to support him like that, because when I met him, fell in love with the guy. He's about the city letter carrier life. And so, yeah, get on from 8arbitration.com. He's got a new little something up there for some t-shirts you'll probably like. And do that, all right? Now, I'm going to do something today. Today was supposed to be about JB, but something came to me this week, and I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to read it, all right? And the reason being is I have a soft spot for arbitration advocates. I just do. I am one. Was one. And so I've got a soft spot for them. I know the struggle of being an arbitration advocate. I've done several. I've lost more cases than most advocates will ever do. And that's not a flex. That's just, I think I've lost 40. And so I've lost more than most will ever do. I know the struggle it is just to be average. Just to be average. And to be well above average is difficult. It takes a lot of time. You got to be, the amount of time that you have to invest to be good is astronomical. And so I have a soft spot for advocates, always will, because I have lived that life since 2012. And you talking about blood, sweat, and tears. It's the advocate life, the travel, the amount of time studying, looking, the amount of research on arbitration sites, the amount of hours spent talking with witnesses, potential witnesses. It's something else. Now, I loved it. I had a passion for it like no other. I think that it's the greatest setting is arbitration, the hearing. I will not tolerate people talking about advocates. And it happens. Matter of fact, you had a wino come out of retirement to start a podcast to come after me, which is fine. Like I said, I set myself out there to be come after. You don't have to, you don't start a podcast attacking people and get your feelings hurt when people come after you. That's first off, I don't get my feelings hurt. I don't care what people think about me. I'm 56. Those days have long passed. And so, but when this wino came out and started this podcast, one of the things he was talking about was an arbitration case I lost. I took exception to that because this individual was a great advocate themselves, and you know better. You know better than that. Not because it's me, but because you don't do that. You don't talk about other advocates because you don't know what went on in the hearing. You don't know the case file. You don't know much about it. So to go after another advocate, to me, was Bush League. And so I just don't do it. And matter of fact, this same individual was in training, talking about it in training, about me specifically. Again, I don't give two fucks what people think about me, but as an advocate, you just don't do that. You know better. Okay? And so, but there was a case that I was talking about a few months back. And what pissed me off about this thing was it was a terrible decision. Not just the decision was terrible, how the arbitrator went at us. If y'all can remember, the arbitrator was basically calling us criminals, that we were nothing more than a criminal outfit, basically. How we were trying to get this escalated monetary war. The games we were playing, as he was saying, is that it was set up kind of ambushing management. A terrible decision. Absolutely. Matter of fact, I think I came out and told Barner to go kick him off the panel. Remember? Because Barner had kicked our arbitrator off the panel discussing Memphis. And I said, hey, why don't you call management and go kick this arbitrator off the panel? I think the arbitrator was Lumley. I can't remember. It might be in this decision. But anyway, the arbitrator went after us. Something crazy. I mean, crazy ass language. Accusing us basically of criminal activity, which to me was odd, that an arbitrator would do that. The bad thing is that the advocate did a fantastic job presenting the case. There was numerous B-team decisions, arbitrators' decisions ruling in our favor. Management finally got that one. They were fishing, finally got that one to side with them. Not that he just sided with them, but made us out to be criminals. And if you remember, the union took that and ran with that. They were sending out emails. My region had people sending out emails saying, this is why you don't go for escalated monetary awards. This is why you quit asking for escalated monetary awards. The reaction to it, completely idiotic. That they would take one decision and all across the country go crazy over that motherfucker like they did. That's one decision out of thousands. I can get you 20 to that one showing where we were right. And so it's just playing into that escalated monetary award fever that this union has right now with the failed leadership of Renfro and Barner. And you got business agents feeding into that shit. You got the director of retirees going around, we don't ask for escalated monetary awards. You were filing too many grievances. Bizarre ass behavior from a union. And so they were sending out emails after email after email. This decision, this is why. Look at what they think of us. Look at that. To me, fuck that decision. Fuck that decision. It's one of thousands. But it just showed the cowardly ass, bitch ass behavior of our union when that happened. That you would take a decision and that you would run that through the fucking system like that, region to region. This is why. This is why you don't ask for an escalated monetary award. This is why, to support your position, to save the fucking Postal Service. And so, anyway, rather than be a bitch ass about it, you take that decision, you look at it, can we have done something differently? Is it a good decision? Was it contractual? Or did the arbitrator just have a wild hair on this one and come after us? That's what you have to do when you get arbitration decisions. Like when they came after me about a JSOV case, and you had this wino come out trying to educate people on, well, what you do is you subpoena those witnesses, which is the all-time dumbest shit I've ever heard. When you have a witness refusing to testify, and so you're going to subpoena that witness to come and testify against their will and put them on the stand. So you're asking for catastrophic effects of that. When you do that, you have no idea what they're going to say. And so you're going to call them, well, you will testify. I'm not testifying. I don't want to testify. Well, I'll just subpoena you. Okay. And so you're going to put them on. But anyway, we've got a decision, okay, based off the same thing, okay, the same situation, same station, the one that shitty-ass decision came from. There's been an arbitrator since then rule on these same grievances. And he goes after that arbitrator about how wrong that arbitrator was, something that the union should have done. We should have gone after that arbitrator talking about how ignorant that decision was. Instead, we used that to go after us, which is what we always do. We use that decision to go after us to justify not asking for an escalated monetary award because we got too many fucking bitch asses in positions of power in this union that do not know how to fight, refuse to fight. Most of them have never been in the fucking fight. And they're going to try to tell me, who has been in the fight, how to fight. Which I will never take from a motherfucker sitting at a desk that hasn't been on the fucking battleground, hasn't been in the fucking arena. You're going to try to tell a motherfucker who's in the fucking arena how to fight. I will never take that from a motherfucker that's sitting at a table. Okay? And so, anyway, you can see I got worked up about that. But I do not like my advocates going after. That's coast to coast. I will not have it. I will not have it. And they went after this decision, embarrassing this advocate, humiliating this advocate for some fucking justification as to why we don't ask for an escalated monetary award, which goes back to Barner going in there talking about no more cease and desist, piece of the pie. Renfro is putting that down. You got the greatest conceder in our history. Look at the TA. And so we've been overrun with cowardice. And now they're going after advocates who are doing a damn good job. And so here's the decision. I'm going to read the whole damn thing because this is vindication. This is vindication for this advocate. This is justification for filing that grievance and running it up to arbitration. That's what that is. It's vindication of that advocate, that you're a damn good advocate. And no matter the decision, you keep fucking fighting. You're going to get some shitty ass decisions in your time as an advocate. Just accept that. You're going to get decisions that you're saying, what in the fuck is that? No, that's coming. You keep fighting. You keep fighting. Don't you ever let a motherfucker talk about how bad you did or whatever happened. You fight. You put the best case on that you can. Let the arbitrator decide how they will and keep on moving. All right? But this is vindication for that advocate because his union decided to make an example of one fucking decisions out of thousands and put it out there to justify their cowardly bitch-ass position on escalated monetary awards because we've decided it's on us to save the fucking service. They can do whatever the fuck they want. They can violate the contract as many times as they want. They can give themselves bonuses. They can give themselves fat-ass raises. They can act separately from us. They can do all the waste that they want. But it's up to us for some reason now as the union to save those motherfuckers from themselves. Which is the dumbest fucking position ever as a union. My position as the union is you go save the city letter carrier. Period. And fuck those motherfuckers over there. The ones who are doing all the fucking waste. They're losing all the fucking money. And you got business agents coming after me. He don't understand that we're going broke. Fuck them motherfuckers, man. All because of a decision. Anyway, I'm going to read the decision. Not because anybody asked me to. I had numerous people send me this decision. Numerous people. And they said this is vindication for that advocate because he was humiliated by his fucking union. By having this motherfucking decision sent out everywhere saying this is why we don't ask for escalated monetary awards. Anyway, here's the decision. And it's based off of, like I said, the same station, the same situation, what they were doing. This arbitrator goes after that arbitrator for such an asinine decision, okay? It's 25 pages. I'm going to read the whole fucking thing because this advocate deserves it. I'm going to read the whole motherfucking thing because this advocate deserves it. Every fucking sentence, every fucking word for what his union did by trying to humiliate him for their own personal fucking gain. It's from John Obey, arbitrator. John Obey. Issue, step B. The issue is identified as follows. Did management violate Article 15 of the National Agreement by failing to abide by local grievance number? Got it there. If so, what is the proper remedy? At the arbitration hearing, the Postal Service asserted that there is an issue that must be addressed before considering the merits of the case And that issue is whether the matter is subsequently arbitrable in light of the decision of arbitrator O'Connor. It's O'Connor. I said Lumley. O'Connor. The facts surrounding this arbitration are undisputed. On August 9, 2022, the Postal Service and the union entered into a formal grievance settlement in a class action matter, being the grievance number there. As is germane to the issues in this present case, in that formal settlement agreement, the Postal Service and the union agreed to the following. Henceforth, when management is non-compliant with a grievance settlement or arbitration award involving a monetary payment, management will pay each grievant of the owed class $25 per day that the grievance is in non-compliance until such time as the union receives proof of payment in the form of a GATS entry. This is in addition to any already agreed upon lump sum monetary incentive for management to comply with local grievance settlements, arbitrations awards, Article 15.3 and M1517. And I will always put M1517 in the issue statement. There's a lot of people who say don't. I say do. Arbitrators will latch onto that. And it's a fantastic M document for us, okay? This arbitrator in this decision agreed, okay? Record file at page 21. Fast forward 7 months, and a formal grievance settlement was reached in grievance there on March 15th of 2023. Record file at pages 14 and 15 as set forth in the formal grievance settlement. The issue is identified as follows. Did management violate Articles 15.3a and 15.17 via Article 19 when they were non-compliant with local grievance number there on 2/15/23 when Renee McCabe worked over 10 hours? If so, what would the remedy be? In resolving the grievance, the Postal Service and the union entered into a complete and final settlement of the grievance pursuant to the following. For the sole purpose of resolving this grievance, the parties agree that management will cease and desist violation, grievance settlements, arbitration awards, Article 15, and M1517. Management will pay these carriers there $100 each in accordance with this number. Management will pay NELC Branch 407 a lump sum of $200 in accordance with this number. Management will provide the union proof of payment in the form of a GATS entry no later than 10 days from the signing of the document. It is undisputed that the union was not provided with proof of payment within 10 days of the signing of the document. On April 25, 2023, Union Steward Elliott Simmons sent an email to the Postal Service informal step A representative indicating that he had a bunch of grievances, apparently 94 in total, to be filed at Informal A, seeking a date for a meeting. Record file at page 24. It is undisputed that no Informal A meeting actually took place, and the matter was appealed to Formal Step A. No meeting took place at Formal Step A, and the matter, along with other grievances that were identified in the email on April 24th, was appealed to Step B. Step B impassed the matter on August 30th of 2023. The arbitration decisions and Step B decision. As is germane to the issues in this case, prior to the present case being heard at arbitration, at least 3 other arbitration hearings were held regarding the core issue which is at the heart of the issue in this case, i.e. the entitlement of the letter carriers of the Montagneux Post Office to the payment of $25 in accordance with the grievance number there for noncompliance with the Formal A settlement agreement. This arbitrator heard the first of these 3 cases on December 12th of 2023 and issued his award on January 3rd of 2024, and it's got the grievance number there. Arbitrator Obi 1324. The issue before the arbitrator was set forth as follows. Did management violate Articles 15.3a and 19 via M1517 of the National Agreement when they failed to abide by local grievances? There's the number. If so, what is the proper remedy? The Postal Service was found to have violated Article 15 when it failed to comply with the settlement agreement in the underlying matter, and because the failure of noncompliance with grievance settlements was part of a pattern and practice, this arbitrator adopted the remedy as requested by the union, which included payment of $25 a day to the Montagneux letter carriers from April 8, 2023 until such time as the union received proof of payment. This arbitrator's January decision was followed by a Step B decision dated April 4th, 2024, which among other issues addressed the question as to whether the service was in violation of Article 15 for refusing to schedule or meet at Formal A, and for violation of Articles 15 and 8, 74 settlements, 21 Step B decisions, and this arbitrator's January 2024 award. The claim in the underlying grievance was similar to the underlying claim in the present case, i.e. a letter carrier worked above the maximum hours on January 6th of 2024. So, I'm going to read that again. This arbitrator's January decision was followed by a Step B decision dated April 4th, 2024, which among other issues addressed the question as to whether the service was in violation of Article 15 for refusing to schedule or meet at Formal A, and for the violations of Articles 15 and 8, 74 settlements, 21 Step B decisions, and this arbitrator's January 2024 award. I'm going to stop right there. Now here you have a shop steward kicking management square in the ass. We've got Elliot Simmons. And if you know this cat, this dude is a hell of a fucking steward. He is kicking management's ass. You've got 74 settlements, 21 Step B decisions. Now let me ask you, who's at fault for that? When we take about this position of, we need to quit asking for an escalated monetary award. Y'all have weaponized the cease and desist. We've taken that on. Barner has taken on that position with Lloyd. We've weaponized the cease and desist. No more cease and desist. Let's just give her Jermaine shall comply, will comply. Now they're saying that they don't even want to say they violated. Okay? You got business agents coming after me saying he refuses to accept the Postal Service losing billions. Do you know why? Do you know why I do that? 74 settlements, 21 Step B decisions. Now, whose fucking fault is that? Is that the city letter carrier's fault? Is that this shop steward's fault? Or maybe, just fucking maybe, it's the employer's fault. Maybe that's why it is. And now you got an arbitrator saying, hey, I ruled with you entirely because of 74 settlements and 21 Step B decisions. I ruled for the union. You know why? Because management's not fucking learning. They're not fucking learning, or they just don't give a fuck. And so whose fault is it? It's our fault. It's the carrier's fault. It's Elliot Simmons' fault. Because management refuses to do their fucking job. This guy's just holding to the contract, which is what we're supposed to do. We police the contract. If you violate it, we're going to grieve it. If it becomes egregious, we're going to ask for an escalated monetary award. Why? Because you're not fucking learning. You're not stopping. So management has made us bend. No more cease and desist. Look, we're not going to educate ourselves. We're not going to tell ourselves to quit. We don't know what in the fuck to do. District managers won't remove managers because they fail to follow the contract and they're costing the Postal Service hundreds of thousands of dollars. We won't do that. What we will do is we will set our sights on the union and make them bend to us. And you know what happened? Your fucking union bent. They bent. When I say you need fighters in there, that's what I'm talking about. When I say you need people that fight, know how to fight, have been in the fucking fight, that's what I'm talking about. You cannot be run by cowardice right now. You got to have motherfuckers that are willing to get in the fucking streets, James Henry. You got to have people that are used to the fucking fight, James Henry, have been in the fucking fight, James Henry, and you got to do away with cowardice. When I see things like that, it pisses me off because you have my union sold us the fuck out. That's what they did. They sold us out. This decision comes out, and who's the bad guys? Elliot Simmons and the Advocate for taking that forward. This is vindication, right? This is justification. That's what this is. For those individuals who are street fighters, who have fucking fought, done all this fucking work, And what does your union say? This is why. This is why you don't go after an escalated monetary award. You got 74 fucking settlements and 21 Step B decisions, and it's Elliott's fault? Fuck you. This arbitrator gets it. Pay attention. The Step B decision makers found that, in fact, there was non-compliance and ordered payment to all the letter carriers at the Montano Post Office of $25 a day until proof of payment was made. The April 2024 Step B decision was followed by arbitrator award of arbitrator Jelly. And it's got that one, it's 7/18/24. This arbitration hearing in the, I guess it's Jelly or it's Gelly. It's Gely. I've not been in front of them, so I don't know how to pronounce that. So I apologize to that arbitrator. I say it's Jelly. Could be Gelly. I'm going to say Jelly. Case took place on June 28, 2024, and the issue as framed in the Jelly case is very similar to the issue in the case that this arbitrator decided on January 24th, and the issue in the present case and reads as follows. Did management violate Article 15.3a and 19 via M1517 of the National Agreement when they failed to abide by local agreements there? If so, what is the appropriate remedy? In addition, is the grievance procedurally proper before the arbitrator? Award at page 2, finding that the Postal Service violated the collective bargaining agreement and failed to abide by the local grievance settlement, arbitrator Jelly awarded the following. The arbitrator orders the service to cease and desist from violation grievance settlements, arbitrations awards, Article 15 and 1517. So you got two arbitrators acknowledging M1517 as something that can be violated. You've got numerous Step B decisions that state that M1517 is something that can be violated. Within 10 days from the date of this award, to pay the Montano letter carriers each a payment of $25 a day in accordance with the terms of the settlement and grievance number there, starting on April 8, 2023, until such time as the union receives proof of payment in the form of a GATS entry. Award at page 19, and finding that these remedies, among others, are appropriate, arbitrator discussed his rationale as follows. These are the remedies agreed to by the union in the previous settlements, and thus, by awarding these remedies, the arbitrator is only enforcing the terms that the parties had themselves agreed to apply. To the extent that the arbitrator is just enforcing the terms to which the parties have themselves agreed to, the service's contention that the remedies are punitive is unpersuasive. Award at page 17. Following the Jelly Award, arbitrator Doyle O'Connor issued his award on November 22, 2024, and that's the one. O'Connor's the one who came in and said, hey, I'm going to side with management. I've got all these past decisions. Now I've got two arbitrators awards. Management finally got him one, Doyle O'Connor. The issue identified in the O'Connor Award has similarities to the issue in this arbitrator's January 2024 award and the issue in the Jelly Award, and reads as follows. Did management violate Article 15.3a and 19 via M1517 of the National Agreement when they failed to abide by local agreements there? If so, what is the appropriate remedy? Before addressing the merits of the case, arbitrator O'Connor discussed the general role of an arbitrator in the decision-making process, opining as follows. An arbitrator is a mere creature of the contract and is bound to apply its terms as drafted. As famously noted by Justice Douglas, an arbitrator does not sit to dispense his own brand of industrial justice or typically to assess the wisdom of actions that were taken. Rather, the faithful arbitrator applies the rules created by the contract between the parties. Award at page 7. Arbitrator O'Connor sustained the grievance in part, finding what he characterized as a procedural violation, a relatively minor and isolated violation of Article 15.2a, the failure to abide by the terms of a Formal A settlement agreement, but denied most of the relief as set forth in that Formal A settlement agreement. His denial of the full relief as set forth in the Formal A settlement agreement appears based upon two factors. First, arbitrator O'Connor found that the union was acting in bad faith, asserting the following. What is clear from this record is that the union has developed a scheme of essentially farming the grievance system for lucrative procedural violations. The union secured management's agreement to hold a timely informal meeting as anticipated by Article 15.3a, but then the union intentionally bypassed that agreement to meet and instead bumped the cases as a block to Formal A, where again no meeting took place. It is transparent that rather than seeking to resolve actual disputes over working conditions, the union was successfully seeking to flood the zone and making it next to impossible for the employer in this small office to timely or substantively respond, thereby generating cash cow opportunities. Award at pages 7 and 8. Second, arbitrator O'Connor found that remedies that were agreed to by the parties in the Formal A settlement were essentially punitive and not justified, writing as follows. The remedies sought in this instance are not merely disproportionate and unrelated to any real compensatory or curative goal. The demands are extortionate, rapacious, and outlandish. I'm going to read the demands are extortionate. Now here's an arbitrator saying that things that the B team has already decided on, now 2 arbitrators. How many decisions did I just tell you? That we're extorting management because they refuse to meet with us. He's going after us like the union did when we got the decision. The union went after us, humiliating, belittling the people that did these grievances because we have somebody in management's ass so deep that we've got remedies now, escalated monetary awards, that B teams are given. 2 arbitrators have now given because the case file supports that. And here you have an arbitrator saying we're extortionate, rapacious, and outlandish, untethered to any actual contractual violation or practical harm. Awarding the relief sought would be an unconscionable outcome, unsupported by an express provision of the national agreement. While the individual union representatives involved in this matter may subjectively believe in the righteousness of their demands for payment, the sums are entirely untethered to any actual harm incurred, to any substantive violation of the national agreement, and do not entail any remedy regarding wages, hours, and working conditions. So what this arbitrator feels is that management can do whatever in the fuck they want. They can violate our agreement with impunity. They can refuse to meet, have things sent up, and then we're going to be the fucking bad guys. That's the position that your union took on when you had these RAAs sending out fucking emails. This is why you don't ask for escalated monetary award. This is what you get. We're the bad guys. Taking on the position of this motherfucker. Extortionate. I tell you, we're the fucking bad guys here. Our union believes that. The Postal Service believes that. We're the bad guys. Did you see the TA? Did y'all see that? That we voted down? Did y'all see that? We're the bad guys. So much so that your president forced it through on us. Do you know why? Because we were asking too much. We were wanting too much. How dare we as peasants want a substantial wage like he'd promised? How dare us want a living wage like we deserve? We're the bad guys. You got a steward in here kicking management's fucking ass. And they're going to try to say that he's the bad guy. He's extortionate, rapacious, and outlandish. He is. And your union sending out fucking letters, making this individual feel like they did something wrong because they're policing the contract trying to protect their carriers. Those days are coming to an end. Let me tell you something. That shit's coming to an end. We will fight every fucking step of the way. We're going to fight. You got to have, when I talk about fighting, people's like, oh, that sounds so good. That's what I'm talking about. You got to have people that know how to fucking fight. That fight at every fucking level. That's including national. Okay. Keep on. Joint Exhibit 4, the compliance settlement. At the arbitration hearing in this case, the parties introduced Joint Exhibit 4, which consisted of a series of emails and a breakout of payments made on June 6th of 2024, in compliance with a multitude of grievances that were filed on May 1, 2023, arising out of the Montano Post Office. As part of these compliance settlements, it is undisputed that the service did not pay the Montano letter carriers $25 a day from the date of the filing of the compliance agreement until June 6, 2024, thus leading to this arbitration hearing. So again, they've been told to do something and they didn't do it. On our side, that'd be failure to follow instructions, and we would get disciplined. Their side, they're just not going to fucking pay it. They're just not going to do it. Just file a grievance. And what avenue do we have? Arbitration. That's it. Arbitration. Because they will not police themselves. Us? Yes. Failure to follow instructions. On any fucking thing. We get discipline, could be removed. These motherfuckers, you got 70 fucking settlements. 30-something B-team decisions. Motherfuckers are still in management. There's your problem. Rather than coming after me, you fat fucks. Rather than come after me, rather than come after the stewards or the advocates, why don't you set your sights on the motherfuckers who are doing it? Get up off your fat ass and go after them. Let's do that as a union. How does that sound? That sound like a good game plan? Does to me. Because they're coming after the carriers for failure to follow instructions. Here you got motherfuckers saying they just didn't fucking do it. They were told to do it, just didn't do it. Just grieve it. That's their position. Why? Because we don't hold them accountable. We bend to these motherfuckers. Talking about no more cease and desist. But they were told to do it. I know they're not going to stop. Look, we went to them. They said they're not going to stop. What they want us to do, though, is they want us to take cease and desist out. And we're going to do that for them to help them out because they just can't stop. And so we'll ask them to comply with the contract. Well, I thought that's what they did when they signed it. Yeah, but we're just going to ask them to comply, and we may say please. And so analysis and conclusions. I'm telling you, when I saw this, I was irate yet ecstatic because it was vindication for a steward doing his fucking job the right way. And an advocate then went in there and kicked the shit out of management, and you had an arbitrator latch on a management position and went after us. There are two issues to be decided in this case. The first being whether the claims in this case are barred on substantive due process grounds in which the Postal Service bears the burden of proof, and the second being whether the service violated Article 15 by its failure to abide by local agreements there, in which the union bears the burden of proof. Management has the first. Obviously, they go in there and they ask for a threshold issue, or they say that this is res judicata or whatever. It's going to be on them. That burden's on them. That's going to be kind of a separate hearing when you talk about a threshold issue, an interpretive issue, okay? And then the second is the contractual issue. That's our burden. Substantive due process. In beginning its argument, the Postal Service quite correctly asserts that a substantive due process arbitrability argument can be raised for the first time at an arbitration hearing, as it goes to the very power of the arbitrator to act. Mittenthal, 1992. The service cites two doctrines as being applicable to the present case, i.e. res judicata and collateral estoppel. Although at page 11 of its post-hearing brief, it asserts that the focus of its argument is on collateral estoppel. One of the regional awards cited by the Postal Service in support of its position in this case lays out in some detail, citing arbitrator Carlton Snow, the principles underpinning the doctrines of res judicata and collateral estoppel as follows. Res judicata has two distinct meanings: claim preclusion and two, issue preclusion. Claim preclusion generally prevents a party from re-arbitrating in a later proceeding a matter that was a part of the same claim arbitrated in an earlier dispute, as described by arbitrator Snow. Claim preclusion requires a final decision on a claim and precludes reassertion of that claim in a subsequent arbitration proceeding. In order to be successful in asserting claim preclusion, a party must demonstrate that 1. The same claim is being asserted, and 2. The same parties are involved. 3, there was a final decision on the merits of the case. And 4, the initial award was based on valid jurisdiction. Issue preclusion, on the other hand, applies even when the second case involves a different cause of action. In such a case, the first arbitration award may be invoked as an estoppel to all matter actually litigated in the first action if they were essential to its determination and were identical to the issue presented in the second case. Requirements of the issue preclusion are that the issue, 1, was actually litigated, and 2, was necessary to the decision, and 3, the party against whom the doctrine is being asserted was a party or in privity with a party to the former action. Collateral estoppel, which may bar a party from litigating identical issues in different settings, is closely related to issue preclusion. Both res judicata, issue preclusion, and collateral estoppel require litigation of the same issue. The test of sameness requires, among other factors, that the evidence in both proceedings be essentially the same. National Panel Decision. Talmadge, 2015. In addition to these core principles involving the doctrines of res judicata and collateral estoppel, the Postal Service cites an award of this arbitrator in a companion case to this case, which is also a companion case to the awards of arbitrator Jelly and O'Connor, as set forth above. In that award of this arbitrator, the arbitrator determined that an earlier decision of his in USPS OB 1324 was erroneous, to the extent that the union was awarded payment of $25 a day for the non-compliance with the grievance settlement. This arbitrator's findings that his early award was erroneous was based upon the well-reasoned decisions of arbitrators Jelly and O'Connor, respectively, which followed this arbitrator's award, and with both arbitrators held that based upon the clear language of the grievance settlement, the union was not entitled to the payment of $25 a day for noncompliance. And following the rationale of the Jelly and O'Connor's decision as to this issue, this arbitrator cited a case of his in Duke Energy, Indiana, 2019, OB 2019, for the proposition that an arbitrator should follow a prior decision between the same parties, involving the same issues, unless the prior decision is inconsistent with the language of the CBA, or in this case, the formal settlements agreement, or barring extraordinary circumstances, which El Corey and How Arbitration Works assert may include the fact that the earlier decision was clearly erroneous. In his post-hearing brief at page 21, the Postal Service lays out its factual basis for why the issues of res judicata and collateral estoppel and issue preclusion should apply to the present case, based upon the November 2024 O'Connor Award. According to the service, the grievance in the present case arises from the same incident date of a failure to meet at Informal A and Formal Step A as existed in the O'Connor case. The evidence introduced in the present case was essentially the same evidence that was introduced in the O'Connor case. The underlying claim in both instances involved a violation of Article 8. The noncompliance claim in the present case arose from the same series of local formal settlement agreements that were involved in the O'Connor case. The remedy issue is at the heart of the present case was litigated in the O'Connor case, and the union had a full opportunity to address all the issues regarding remedy in the O'Connor case. Since there is identity of facts, issues, and remedy requests, and arbitrator O'Connor found that the union was not entitled to the remedy it was seeking, i.e. payment to the Montano carriers of $25 a day, for the non-compliance with the local formal settlement agreements, all the requirements of collateral estoppel are met, and the claims as set forth in the present case should be precluded based upon the November 2024 decision of arbitrator O'Connor. Now listen here. While there may be some superficial appeal to the Postal Service's argument that the decision of arbitrator O'Connor should be dispositive of the issues in the present case, there is a fundamental problem with that argument, a problem which this arbitrator raised at the arbitration hearing in this case as set forth in the transcript of pages 79 and 81. Prior to the issuance of the O'Connor Award, now remember O'Connor's against us, came out and basically called us gangsters. in November 2024, the very issue that is at the heart of this case was addressed by two arbitrators, this arbitrator and arbitrator Jelly, and significantly by Step B decision makers and the two arbitrators. And the Step B decision makers determined that based upon the same facts with the same or similar underlying claims, that the union was entitled to the relief which arbitrator O'Connor determined that it was not entitled to. So this arbitrator has flipped the script on management. They're saying, hey, look, O'Connor's already determined this in a prior award, that they're not due those monies. This arbitrator flips the script. He says, what you're not taking into consideration, I've already heard the case and ruled on it. So has arbitrator Jelly and ruled on it. So has the Step B decision makers and have ruled on it. So you're going to bring in one case and say that's dispositive of all these other cases, that this one arbitrator should therefore trump two arbitrators and all these Step B decision makers. This one decision should nullify all those prior decisions. That's what he's basically saying. That's what you're wanting me to do. You're wanting to say that you got one arbitrator, O'Connor, come in and make a decision. So with that one decision, should do away with all these prior settlements. Is that what you're wanting? That's basically what he's saying. In this arbitrator's award of January 3rd of 2024, this arbitrator found that the union was entitled to an enhanced remedy, which included payment of $25 a day to the Montano letter carriers, based upon the fact the Postal Service had failed to comply with cease and desist orders. That's what your unions want to do away with, as set forth in a series of formal settlements agreements, awarded at page 17. Further, those formal settlement agreements which were voluntarily entered into by the union and service provided for enhanced remedies, including the payment of $25 a day to the Montano letter carriers until compliance was met with the underlying violation, due to the egregious nature of management's willful and wanton lack of compliance with several agreed-upon grievance settlements. I'll read that again. Further, those formal settlements agreements which were voluntarily entered into by the union and service provided for enhanced remedies, including the payment of $25 a day to the Montano letter carriers until compliance was met and the underlying violation due to the egregious nature of management's willful and wanton lack of compliance. You know whose fault that is? According to your union, it's our fault. According to the service, it's our fault. Because who is the ones that they're going after? Us. Rather than coming in, I'm going to keep doing this shit because I'm so happy for these individuals because they were attacked by our union and the service. And so I'm going to keep doing this shit until I'm finished reading it. I'm at page 11. I got 25 of these motherfuckers to read. So you have management's willful and wanton lack of compliance. The carriers are the ones who ended up being the bad guy in this situation. The steward is the one who ended up being the bad guy in this installation. Even the advocate was the one who ended up being the bad guy in this situation because your union attacked both by putting out letters saying this is why we don't ask for an escalated monetary award, even though the arbitrator says it's management's willful and wanton lack of compliance. So they can do that. They can have that willful and wanton lack of compliance. They can have that. We're the ones who are supposed to bend. I'll continue to say that. We are the ones who are supposed to bend to management. Look, they can have that willful and wanton lack of compliance, but what we need to do is we need to back off this cease and desist language. B teams, quit doing cease and desist. Matter of fact, if a cease and desist comes up, manager, just impasse it. We're not going to agree to cease and desist language, right? Because we're different. We have a different set of rules. Our contract reads differently than the ones that the carriers do. Because I guarantee you, you will never have a carrier with a wanton and willful lack of compliance on, say, attendance-related issues. Do you know why it will never reach the level of willful and wanton lack of compliance? Because we'll be fired, right? You'll never have a willful and wanton lack of, let's say, failure to deliver an express mail. There will never be a willful and wanton lack of compliance to that, or wearing your seatbelt, or not curbing your tires, or not doing something to that, you will never have a willful and wanton lack of compliance on our part because management will fucking fire us. That's why. The only time you will see willful and wanton lack of compliance is on management's side. Why? Because they don't police their own. And you got a fucking union bending over to these motherfuckers and taking it because they say we're the ones who are responsible for this shit by continuing to ask for a cease and fucking desist. There's a different set of rules that we play by. There's a double standard. And I'm fucking sick of it because my union has allowed it. And you got dumb fat ass business agents coming after me saying he's a dumbass motherfucker for not understanding the union's loss of money. Hell, it's saying here it's a willful and lack of compliance. I don't think it's a podcaster's fault that they're losing money. I'm not sure. But it could be because motherfuckers won't listen to it or won't abide by the fucking contract. Maybe. I don't know. 4 months after this arbitrator's January decision, the same and similar issues were addressed by the Step B representatives. As in this arbitrator's January award in April of 2024 Step B decision, the Step B decision makers were faced with multiple issues, including the failure of the Postal Service to meet for formal Step A meetings, the failure of the service to comply with 74 local grievance settlements and 21 Step B decisions, and the failure to comply with the CBA and local settlement agreements when an employee was required to work hours in excess of the maximum. The same underlying issue in the present case and in Arbitrator O'Connor's case. The Step B decision makers found a violation as to each of the claims as set forth in the grievance, and as part of the relief that was provided, ordered the payment of $25 to each letter carrier at the Montano Post Office, pursuant to the language of the local formal settlement agreements. It is undisputed that on June 6, 2024, the Postal Service issued settlement payments to all the aggrieved grievance on the underlying claims made in the grievances, including the grievance at issue in this arbitrator's January 2024 award. 22 days later, Arbitrator Jelly was asked to address the non-compliance grievance in his case, the underlying matter being the failure to provide letter carriers at the Montano Post Office with tax reports. Among the remedies sought in that case for the non-compliance was the payment of $25 a day to all the Montano letter carriers. Arbitrator Jelly rejected an argument of the Postal Service that payments to the letter carriers was not appropriate because the letter carriers had not been hurt by the violation, setting forth that the very failure to abide by the national agreement and settlements constitute harm to letter carriers is sufficient base to award remedies. And that's a popular belief by a lot of arbitrators. I remember Arbitrator Wolitz in Lake Charles said the same thing. The workroom floor is harmed when management fails to abide by the contract over and over and over again. The relationship between the union and management is harmed when Postal Service fails to abide by the contract over and over and over again. That is a common belief amongst arbitrators, and it's a beautiful one as well. I'll read that again. The very failure to abide by the national agreement and settlements constitute harm to letter carriers. It's sufficient basis to award remedies. That's beautifully written. Look, we have an agreement between us and y'all. When you consistently violate it, when you constantly violate it, there's harm there. Just because you don't think it's harm, you do it all the fucking time. You don't think there's any harm. There is harm. There's harm when you consistently violate the agreement. There's harm between you and the carriers. It's an agreement between you and them. Award at page 17, in finding that the payment of $25 a day to the letter carriers at the Montano Post Office was required by the terms of the prior settlement agreements, Arbitrator Jelly succinctly held, these are the remedies agreed to by the union in previous settlements, and thus by awarding these remedies to the arbitrator is only enforcing the terms that the parties agreed to apply. To the extent that the arbitrator is just enforcing the terms to which the parties have themselves agreed to, the service's contention that the remedies are punitive are unpersuasive. The question then becomes, why shouldn't the decision of this arbitrator, the April Step B decision, and the decision of arbitrator Jelly, all of which reached the same conclusion based upon the facts and the language of the formal grievance settlements that the Moreno Montano carriers were entitled to the payment of $25 a day for non-compliance, govern the decisions in the case, as opposed to the decision of arbitrator O'Connor, who determined that the carriers were not entitled to the payment for the non-compliance. Again, that question. Again, he's asking that question. Look, why is it that I should, as first off, as one who's already decided a case here, why is it that I, arbitrator Jelly, and all these prior grievance settlements, why should all these have less weight than the one case from arbitrator O'Connor? That's what he's saying. Matter of fact, you put a question mark there. On pages 30 and 31 of its post-hearing brief, the Postal Service makes 4 arguments as to why the OB Jelly awards should not be applicable in the present context and that the O'Connor award should, in fact, be binding. Those arguments are as follows. 1, the early awards were issued at a time when the Postal Service was not in compliance with the underlying local settlement agreements. 2, the factual circumstances of the underlying technical violation in the present case and the arbitrator O'Connor's case are similar as both involve Article 8 violations. 3, the union waived its right to make the argument that the OB Jelly awards were applicable to the facts before arbitrator O'Connor because the union did not make that argument in the O'Connor case. And 4, the O'Connor award is the most recent award to interpret the local settlement agreement, and for that reason alone, the decision should be followed. We will examine each of those arguments in depth. First, the Postal Service asserts that there was non-compliance with the underlying settlement agreements when the OB Jelly awards were issued, and the non-compliance was corrected by the time the O'Connor award was issued, which is a material change from what was before the arbitrator and arbitrator Jelly. On its face, the Postal Service's argument is not correct, as evidenced by the Joint Exhibit 4 that was agreed upon by the parties in this case. The settlements in the underlying local matters were made on June 6, 2024, over 3 weeks before hearing in the Jelly Award took place. The Postal Service was fully in a position to argue that somehow the fact that the underlying payments were fulfilled made a difference and arbitrator Jelly should not award the Montano letter carriers $25 a day for noncompliance as set forth in the previous settlements that the parties had agreed upon. To use arbitrator Jelly's words, it appears that the service chose not to make this argument in the Jelly case and is only making it now in light of the O'Connor award. But more importantly, this case and the cases that were previously before this arbitrator and arbitrator Jelly were not about the underlying payments. Rather, this case and the cases and the issues set forth in the OB Jelly awards involve noncompliance, and noncompliance is not a technical issue as the Postal Service prefers to characterize it. The local grievance settlement in this grievance makes the following clear. Henceforth, when management is noncompliant with a grievance settlement or arbitration award involving a monetary payment, management will pay each grievant of the owed class $25 per day that the grievance is non-compliant until such time as the union receives payment in the form of a GATS entry. This is in addition to any already agreed upon lump sum monetary incentive for management to comply with local grievance settlements and arbitration awards, Article 15.3 and M1517. The use of the word will makes such payments mandatory, and that's why I always highlight words. We've done it since day one. Must, will, shall. Anytime you see words like that, it's a mandate. We always say that, right? Anytime you have those words, when you look at the Postal Service policy on workplace harassment, when it talks about management's responsibilities, how many times does it say management must? Management must. Now you look at the M39, you look at all these other things. Will, must, shall. Anytime you have that, highlight it, okay? This is what this arbitrator is doing right here. The use of the word will make such payments mandatory, and the requirement that the $25 a day be paid has no significance as to when the underlying payments are made, but acts as a cutoff when the liability for the noncompliance ends. Now I'm hoping and praying that when the union took such a bitch-ass decision on the O'Connor award and started sending out all these emails to everybody, this is why you don't ask for monetary awards. Listen what he's saying. He's calling us gangsters, criminals. He's saying that we're extortionists. This is why I'm hoping and praying. Now that we've got 3 arbitrators' decisions in support of escalated monetary awards, that those same RAAs and all these others across the country, I'm hoping that they do the same thing and send out emails saying, this is why you do ask for, seek escalated monetary awards. This is why you do that. I'm hoping that same thing happens. Surely to God, we're not just going to send out one email based off one decision amongst thousands to support not asking for a monetary award. Surely that's not something that came down from national to say, hey, look, we finally got us one going after escalated monetary awards. Put this out, disseminate this amongst everybody, and make sure that they quit asking for escalated monetary awards and use this one decision to support that position. Surely that's not what happened. Surely those games weren't played. If y'all get emails from your RAAs and people saying, hey, this is why you should ask for escalated monetary awards, let me know. I guarantee you on my life, the same cowardly bitch-ass motherfuckers that sent out those emails before won't say a fucking thing about this one, where this arbitrator came back and blistered that other arbitrator and said, you want me to, let me get this straight. You want me to take one arbitrator's award that wasn't right, and you want me to say that one should do away with my award, Arbitrator Jelly's award, all these prior settlements? Is that what you're asking me? Is that what you're saying? That's basically what this decision is right here. Let me get this straight. You want me to take this arbitrator's decision and do away with all these others. That's what you're asking me. You can hear it just in the writing. But let me know if y'all get emails from these same cowardly motherfuckers who sent out those emails about this is why you don't. Let me know if they get the ones that say this is why you do. All right? Don't go after my advocates, man. don't, and damn good shop stewards. Don't do that with me. I'm telling you. Don't fucking do it. You don't know the fucking struggle. Going to send out some fucking emails. This is why you don't do that shit. You don't know a fucking thing. If you send out an email doing it, you're a cowardly motherfucker who don't know shit. Damn good shop steward, Elliot Simmons. A damn good steward, man. Kicks management's fucking ass. I'll sit there and send out a fucking email trying to humiliate these people, man. You're the fucking union. Act like it. You got something to say to them? Call them. Don't send out a fucking email. Where was I? Second, much for the same reasons that its first argument has no validity, the Postal Service's second argument is without merit. The Postal Service's focuses on the underlying payments in the present case and the O'Connor case, both of which involved Article 8 violations related to failure to pay bargaining unit members for working hours in excess of the maximum allowed, asserting that because the underlying violations are similar, the O'Connor reasoning should apply. If this argument were taken to its logical conclusion, there would be one rule for cases that had as an underlying violation an Article 8 violation, as in the O'Connor case and the present case. But the rule would be different for the failure to file tax reports, as in the Jelly Ward, where the $25 a day payment would be owed, but not in cases where Article 8 was involved. This would be the ultimate in inconsistent awards. Beautiful sentence. This would be the ultimate in inconsistent awards. But as set forth above, the issue in this case and in the Obi Jelly Awards and the April 2024 Step B decisions is not what the underlying violation was, but rather the fact that a monetary payment was not timely made, which triggered an agreed upon payment of $25 a day to the Montano carriers until the non-compliance was rectified. which according to the documentation took place on June 6, 2024. Third, the Postal Service argues the union has waived its right to assert that the OB-Jelly awards are binding on res judicata grounds because the union never made that argument in the O'Connor case. So it is barred from making the argument in this case. Based upon the record that is before the arbitrator, this arbitrator is not in a position to know one way or another whether the union in fact made the argument in O'Connor case that the OB-Jelly awards are binding upon him. The Postal Service attached the case files from the O'Connor case along with its submissions as part of its post-hearing brief, but those case files are inconclusive as they contain no reference one way or another as to the OB-Jelly awards. But more importantly, the entire argument of the Postal Service is based upon a claim of substantive arbitrability, citing the national award by arbitrator Mittenthal. In that case, arbitrator Mittenthal held that a substantive arbitrability argument, unlike a procedural arbitrability argument, which can be waived, cannot be waived, opining, the Postal Service is free to raise this arbitrability defense at the arbitration hearing, even though it had not raised the matter earlier. For this kind of defense goes to the very power of the arbitrator to act and cannot be waived through prior silence. Award at page 4, emphasis added. As it was proper in arbitrator Mittenthal's case for the Postal Service to raise substantive arbitrability for the first time at that hearing, it is obviously proper for the union to raise the substantive arbitrability issue in this case, as it did in its post-hearing reply brief, when it argued that the OB-Jelly awards are binding on this case and not the O'Connor award. This third argument of the Postal Service is also without merit. Fourth, the Postal Service argues rather disingenuously that because the O'Connor award is the most recent award to interpret the language of the formal settlement agreement, it should be followed. There is nothing inherent in the fact that an award is more recent as opposed to the earlier OB-Jelly awards that would lead to the conclusion that the most recent award should be followed rather than the earlier awards. At the heart of this argument is that arbitrator O'Connor got it right when he issued his award, that this arbitrator and arbitrator Jelly got it wrong, and that this is why the O'Connor award should be followed. As the rationale for the OB-Jelly awards has already been addressed, it now becomes necessary to address the O'Connor award and whether in fact that award was correctly decided. As noted above, as general principle, an arbitrator should follow the decisions of an earlier arbitrator which involves the same parties and the same issues. See Duke Energy, Indiana, OB 2019, OB 5/12/2025. Now listen, if an arbitrator ever tells you to go look at something, go look at something. Advocates. If they tell you in the decision, see Duke Energy, Indiana, this is arbitrator Obi that ruled on that. Go get it and read it and cite it. You can cite it. He tells you to. See Duke Energy, Indiana. He gave you the case number. I'm looking that up as an advocate. I'm going to pull it. I'm going to read the shit out of it. And because this is an arbitrator that's on the panel, Obi, it's right there. While this is the general rule, as El Khoury and El Khoury set forth, there are exceptions to the rule. One of the exceptions to the rule is that the award is inconsistent with the language of the CBA, or in this case, the language of the formal settlement agreements that were entered into between the parties. There is a second exception, and that exception is when the later arbitrator determines that the earlier decision that he is being asked to follow is clearly erroneous. In the present case, this arbitrator determines that the O'Connor award is not res judicata in the present situation, and it is both inconsistent with the language of the formal settlement agreements that were entered into between the parties and is clearly erroneous. It is this arbitrator's determination that the prior OB-Jelly awards are binding in the present case on the grounds of res judicata. So he's telling you that O'Connor is erroneous. He just called him out. Based off the prior settlements, the O'Connor award is erroneous. It's not some gangster shit, some scheme, right? We're not trying to strong arm management. He's saying, based off these prior settlements, O'Connor's the one who's clearly erroneous. In his award at page 7, Arbitrator O'Connor quite correctly identifies the role of the arbitrator in the decision-making process, citing Supreme Court Justice Douglas in the Steelworker Trilogy. Arbitrator O'Connor sets forth that the arbitrator is tasked with interpreting the language which is before him and not to assess the wisdom of the actions that were taken, or alternatively, not to dispense his own brand of industrial justice. Emphasis added. After citing the general rule, and without citing any of the specific language of the many formal settlement agreements that were entered into between Postal Management and the Union at the Montano Post Office, as well as the Step B decisions that enforce said Formal A settlement agreements, which are at the heart of this case and the case before this arbitrator, Arbitrator O'Connor opines the following. It appears that there was at some point a recognition by regional management that then local postmaster was failing to timely comply with grievance settlements, and as a result, several grievance settlements were reached which broadly promised monetary remedies. If there was non-compliance with future grievance settlements, and he highlighted that. I'm going to read that again. He's citing O'Connor's own words. And this is what O'Connor said. It appears that there was at some point a recognition by regional management that then local postmaster was failing to timely comply with grievance settlements, and as a result, several grievance settlements were reached which broadly promised monetary remedies, and he highlights, if there was non-compliance with future grievance settlements. Award at page 3, emphasis added. In other places in his award, Arbitrator O'Connor acknowledges that in fact there were settlement agreements that were entered into between the parties that provided for payments for non-compliance if payments were not timely made. See award at pages 7 and 9. In still other places in the award, Arbitrator O'Connor refers the apparent terms of prior settlement agreements that provided for payments when compliance with underlying grievance settlements was not timely made. Award at page 4. What then is the arbitrator's role as Arbitrator O'Connor identifies it? The arbitrator's role is to interpret the language of the agreement that the parties have entered into. Is that what Arbitrator O'Connor did in his case? The answer is no. I'm going to read it again. Now remember this. The union did not read the decision, O'Connor's. They did not read the decision. Because what you do is you get the decision, you look at it, is the decision by the arbitrator contractual? Did he follow contractual language? We have settlements that prescribe this. Did the arbitrator go by those prior settlements and the prior arbitration awards? This arbitrator, I'm going to read it again in a second, says no. As a union, that should have been our determination. Look at the decision before you lose your ass over it. Before you fucking go crazy over a decision, look at the decision. Was it contractual? No, it was not. Okay, so we're not going to overreact based off of one decision that's obviously not contractual. What did we do? Over fucking reacted on a biblical scale. We send out all these emails. This is why. This one case is why you don't ask for escalated monetary award. It was just the fact that this case supported the union's position that we're not going to ask for escalated monetary awards. They were looking for the one with the worst language, and this was it. It said we were strong-arming them, right? Basically, we're henchmen. We're gangsters. We're criminals. And so they said, this is the one. Send this one out to everybody, because not everybody's going to know what the arbitrator is talking about, or prior settlements is not in there, all these other things. Send this one. Your union became bitches over one decision. That's what happened. That's what happened. I had a case once. It was an arbitration case. It was about management trying to do a window of operation to dispatch of value. Here. It was off assignment overtime, okay? And I had already won one in front of Arbitrator August. It was one of the best decisions we had. And so management keeps fishing, and they finally got an arbitrator, Arbitrator Bahakel. Okay? And so management argued rule of reason. It had nothing to do with rule of reason because this was off assignment overtime. They don't apply. Right? Rule of reason is for on assignment overtime. It does not apply to off assignment overtime. I had the formula acknowledge that it did not. They cited Arbitrator Braverman. I had him acknowledge that this was not rule of reason. This was not on assignment overtime for non-ODLs. This was off assignment overtime. That's what we're dealing with. It had nothing to do with rule of reason. Do you know what Arbitrator Bahakel ruled on? Braverman, rule of reason. Had nothing to do with it. Nothing. Do you think we raised hell about that? Nope. Didn't do shit. Did we try to vacate it? Nope. Even though it was a devastating decision to my branch because she ruled on rule of reason. This is office, had nothing to do with anything. But did we go try to vacate that? No. No, we didn't. Did we lose our shit over this one? Yeah. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Sent this motherfucker all over the country. I'm going to read that to you again, what the arbitrator just said. What then is the arbitrator's role as Arbitrator O'Connor identifies it? The arbitrator's role is to interpret the language of the agreements that the parties have entered into. Is that what Arbitrator O'Connor did in his case? The answer is no. While there were multiple settlement agreements entered into between the postal management at Mountainoe and the union, there is a similarity in each of the settlement agreements. For example, in one of the formal grievance settlements agreements, which is found in the record file of Arbitrator O'Connor's case, which was entered into on August 10, 2022, the following language is found. Henceforth, when management is non-compliant with a grievance settlement, agreement, or arbitration award involving a monetary payment, management will pay each grievant of the old class $25 per day that the grievance is in non-compliance until such time as the union receives proof of payment in the form of a GATS entry. O'Connor record file at page 36, emphasis added. Is the language of this formal settlement agreement clear and unambiguous? Indeed it is. Does Arbitrator O'Connor acknowledge that in fact that there was a violation of that agreement? Indeed he does. As at page 9 of his award, he states the following. The employer failed to meet those deadlines, which is a violation of the settlement agreement. Does Arbitrator O'Connor then enforce the clear and unambiguous language that the parties agreed to as to what the employer is mandated to do for the non-compliance, i.e. pay each grievant of the owed class $25 per day that the grievance is in non-compliance? The answer is no. On its face, Arbitrator O'Connor is non-compliant with his duty as an arbitrator to enforce the language of agreements that the parties have entered into. Come on. Come on. Motherfucker, come on. This is what the union should have been doing. The union should have said the arbitrator is wrong and non-compliant because you found a violation of the prior settlement. And the settlement says that if there's a violation, you will pay. Period. If there's a violation, you will pay. The arbitrator's calling him out on it. He says the employer failed to meet those deadlines, which is a violation of the settlement agreement. That's what the arbitrator O'Connor said. He agreed the employer failed to meet those deadlines, which is a violation of the settlement agreement. Do you know what happens then? That word that we've been talking about, will, comes into effect. That word will, if there's a violation, then there's this word right here. Management will pay each grievant. So Arbitrator O'Connor says there is a violation. I have found a violation. Well, then it's very simple then. If there's a violation, you have to go to that prior settlement, right? In accordance with 1517. You will pay each grievant. And what does he say? Does Arbitrator O'Connor then enforce the clear and unambiguous language that the parties agreed to as to what the employer is mandated to pay for the noncompliance? Pay each grievant of the owed class $25 per day that the grievant is in noncompliance? The answer is no. On its face, listen to me, on its face, Arbitrator O'Connor is noncompliant with his duty as an arbitrator to enforce the language of the agreement that the parties have entered into. The union should immediately send out emails across the country apologizing to Elliott Simmons and the advocate who did that case. They should immediately apologize and say, we are sorry for taking the side of an arbitrator who is obviously non-compliant. We're sorry for what we did, for acting like such bitches. We're sorry. That's what the union should do. They should immediately send an email to Elliott Simmons or pack up the shit and go and see him and say, hey, face to face, we want to apologize for acting like such cowardly motherfucking bitches. They won't, because they're cowardly motherfucking bitches. But anyway, on its face, Arbitrator O'Connor is non-compliant with his duty as an arbitrator to enforce the language of agreements that the parties have entered into. Instead of enforcing the language of the settlement agreements that were entered into by the parties, he looks behind the language that was agreed upon and characterizes the non-compliance with the settlement agreements as a technical violation, a relatively minor and isolated violation of Article 15.2a, setting aside for the moment that the violations were not isolated, as is clear from the record file in his case, as well as the record file in the present case, and the record files in the prior OB Jelly Awards. On what authority as an arbitrator does Arbitrator O'Connor have to look behind what the parties have agreed to and not enforce what the parties have agreed to? The answer is none. This motherfucker's going off right here. He's going off on O'Connor, which he should, which we should have done. We should be doing this. We should have sent out a synopsis just like this. Instead, our cowardly asses sent out emails saying, we're at fault. Elliott Simmons is his fault. The advocate's fault for even going forward. The business agent was at fault. Why were you taking a case like that? That's what they were saying. Why would you even take a case like that forward? That shit was being said. This arbitrator's all over it. Setting aside for the moment that the violations were not isolated, as is clear from the record file in his case, as well as the record file in the present case, and the record files in the prior OB Jelly Awards, on what authority as an arbitrator does Arbitrator O'Connor have to look behind what the parties have agreed to and not enforce what the parties have agreed to? The answer is none. As arbitrators, we are to interpret the language that parties have agreed upon and enforce that language, and in the words of Justice Douglas, not assess the wisdom of the parties in entering into the agreements which they entered into. In looking at that underlying remedies that the parties chose for noncompliance with formal agreement settlements, Arbitrator O'Connor characterizes those agreed upon remedies as disproportionate and unrelated to any real compensatory or curative goal. The demands are extortionate, rapacious, and outlandish, untethered to any actual contractual violation or practical harm. Award at page 9. He referenced the remedies as unconscionable and inequitable. But how can they be unconscionable or inequitable if in fact they're agreed to by the parties? That's the first thing you think of. How can you say that those are unconscionable and equitable when both parties have agreed to it? The service and the union. How can they be unconscionable and equitable? That's what he's saying. But how can they be unconscionable and equitable if in fact they're agreed to by the parties? Unconscionability in a legal sense is normally referenced when there are two parties of unequal bargaining strength, and one of the parties takes advantage of that unequal bargaining strength to the detriment of the other. But these binding settlement agreements were the product of negotiation and between parties of equal strength. And these parties chose the remedy, which Arbitrator O'Connor chose not to enforce. He's all over this arbitrator. He's all over this is what we should have done. Again, this is what the union should have done. They should have written a synopsis saying the same things that this arbitrator did. Instead, what do we do? Pulled our pants down and bent over to management like we do so many fucking times. Nowhere in Arbitrator O'Connor's award does he assert or find evidence that somehow the Postal Service was duped or forced into the settlement agreements that local and regional postal officials entered into. Indeed, in none of the three cases that this arbitrator has heard arising from the Montano Post Office has the Postal Service ever argued that the formal grievance settlement agreements were the product of duplicitous overreaching on the part of the union. Arbitrator O'Connor does assert that the formal grievance settlements were ill-advised, and that may very well be so, but they were freely entered into on both a local and regional level and must be enforced. I'm going to read that again. It may be my favorite decision ever. Going after another arbitrator for some dumbass shit. Indeed, in none of the three cases that this arbitrator has heard arising from the Montano Post Office has the Postal Service ever argued that the formal grievance settlement agreements were the product of duplicitous overreaching or on the part of the union. Arbitrator O'Connor does assert that the formal grievance settlements were ill-advised, and that may very well be so, but they were freely entered into on both a local and regional level and must be enforced. You see that word must? We like that word, right? What Arbitrator O'Connor has done in this case is exactly what Supreme Court Justice Douglas held that arbitrators should not do. So Arbitrator O'Connor cited Supreme Court Justice Douglas. He cited, and this arbitrator is saying, hey, brother, you cited him, you violated him. What Arbitrator O'Connor has done in this case is exactly what Supreme Court Justice Douglas held that arbitrators should not do. Finding that the relief was greatly disproportionate to any actual harm incurred, he has dispensed his own brand of industrial justice. But that is not what an arbitrator is supposed to do. It is clear that Arbitrator O'Connor, by going into great detail as to what the monetary outcome would be if he enforced the language that the parties had agreed upon, feels that such a remedy is not appropriate. But on what basis, other than his say-so, as the parties agreed to the remedy that he chose not to enforce? Arbitrators, as Arbitrator O'Connor noted, are creatures of the contracts and agreements that they are asked to interpret. No more and no less. In dispensing his own form of industrial justice, Arbitrator O'Connor's award is inconsistent with the language of the formal stepway agreements and is clearly erroneous. Lastly, the tenor of Arbitrator O'Connor's award suggests that there was some tension between Arbitrator O'Connor and the union witnesses, something which this arbitrator did not experience in the three cases that he heard arising out of the Montano Post Office. He references in his award that the union aggressively obfuscated facts and was duplicitous in some of its arguments and statements. This perception may have led to Arbitrator O'Connor to draw certain conclusions, including the fact that he asserted that the union intentionally bypassed the informal aid process awarded at page 7. And while this arbitrator, and apparently Arbitrator Jelly as well, did not find that there was intentionality in the union's decision to make the matter from informal aid to formal aid, nor did this arbitrator and Arbitrator Jelly find that there was bad faith, Arbitrator O'Connor, in reaching his decision, ignored documentation that was in the record file that may have explained why the union moved the matter from informal aid to formal aid. In the record file, in his case, there are 8 formal settlement agreements where the basis of the agreements was the failure of Montano informal aid representative to meet an informal aid, which led to cease and desist orders and monetary compensation to the Montano letter carriers and the union itself. Record file at pages 47 to 62. After concluding that the union intentionally moved the matter from informal aid, Arbitrator O'Connor asserts that a formal aid no meeting took place, intimating in context that the reason that the formal meeting did not take place had something to do with behavior on the part of the union. In fairness to arbitrator O'Connor, he had apparently no way of knowing that prior to the issuance of his award that there had been a Step B decision issued on April 4, 2024, which is not found in the record file of O'Connor Award. In that Step B decision, the Step B decision makers found that the Postal Service had violated Article 15.2 of the National Agreement when it failed to schedule and/or meet at formal Step A, and the Postal Service violated Article 15.3 and 74 local grievance settlements and 21 Step B decisions. Perhaps, had arbitrator O'Connor been provided with this Step B decision, he would have been made aware that there were serial violations on the part of the Montano postal officials related to failures to meet and failures to comply with formal grievance settlements and Step B decisions, which may have led to a different perception as to the union's actions in light of the behavior of the Postal Service officials at the Montano Post Office. On this record as a whole, the Postal Service substantive arbitrability argument is without merit, as it relies upon the award of arbitrator O'Connor, which this arbitrator finds is not res judicata of the issues in the case, as the O'Connor award is inconsistent with the clear and unambiguous language of the formal settlement agreements and is clearly erroneous. The matter is arbitrable. The arbitrator further finds that in the facts of awards of this arbitrator, Supra, and arbitrator Jelly, Supra, are res judicata as to the issues in this case. Merits. Having determined that the matter is arbitrable and that the OB Jelly awards are controlling, and res judicata as to the issues in this case, the decisions on the merit is straightforward. So he says, hey, I am going to say that it's res judicata for Jelly and myself, okay? Which is beautiful. Okay, so now you got O'Connor. Anytime you go in there now, they're going to be able to hand in Jelly and him and say, hey, this is res judicata. Okay, it's already been determined by this arbitrator. In his post-hearing brief, the Postal Service repeats arguments that it made before this arbitrator and arbitrator Jelly that the remedies being sought by the union in this case, as were the remedies sought by the OB Jelly awards, are punitive in nature, asserting that the national agreement only permits punitive remedies in certain egregious instances. Further citing United States Supreme Court authority, the service argues that the remedy sought by the union in this case far exceeds any reasonable punitive remedy allowed by law. In addition, the Postal Service relies on the regional arbitration award of arbitrator Carlton Snow. According to the Postal Service, arbitrator Snow refused to enforce a 2,000% penalty as inconsistent with common law principles. In arbitrator Snow's case, the facts are that the post office in Salinas, California, was violating the contract by mandating overtime, and the question is what remedy should there be for the violation that was admitted by the service. Arbitrator Snow, as the Postal Service notes, cited that the general principles as to punitive remedies in contract cases, asserting the following: only in rare instances where a breach of contract is sufficiently outrageous or tied to a tort does a court of law afford punitive damages in a breach of contract. Award at page 14. And while the service wholly ignores the finding of this arbitrator in the first of the three cases this arbitrator heard involving the Montano Post Office, in which at page 18 of the award he found that the actions of the Postal Service were egregious in nature and constituted willful and wanton noncompliance with grievance settlements. The Postal Service also wholly ignores the language of arbitrator Snow's decision, which immediately follows the language that the service cites from that award. On page 14 of arbitrator Snow's award, he wrote the following: arbitration, of course, is a creature of contract, and remedies ought to reflect that fact. While there is no obligation in arbitration to ape the law, it is imprudent to ignore the potential guidance to be found in thousands of contract decisions. Within reason, parties have the right to modify legal principles by contract, and these parties have chosen to do so with regard to allowing some damages that may exceed the exception measurement. Any such modification must be interpreted strictly. If an arbitrator is to impose a larger sanction, it must be a result of a negotiated agreement between the parties. Emphasis added. This is precisely what the parties did in the present case. They agreed to a specific remedy that would be applicable for the noncompliance of grievance settlements. in light of the fact of a historical pattern on the part of the Montano management to comply with settlement agreements. In Arbitrator Jelly's case, in a simple and sufficient statement, Arbitrator Jelly rejected the Postal Service's argument that providing the remedy in this case is the payment of $25 a day to the Montano letter carriers until compliance was reached, that the remedy was somehow punitive. In words that echo the words of Arbitrator Snow, Arbitrator Jelly, in his case, held the following: these are the remedies agreed to by the union in previous settlements, and thus by awarding these remedies, the arbitrator is only enforcing the terms that the parties have themselves agreed to apply. To the extent that the arbitrator is just enforcing the terms to which the parties themselves agreed to, the service's contention that the remedies are punitive is unpersuasive. Award at page 17, emphasis added. As Arbitrator Jelly specifically found that the remedies sought by the union are not punitive, his award is res judicata as to merits of this case and is binding upon the Postal Service. The agreements are sustained on the merits, and the service is ordered to pay the letter carriers at the Montano Post Office $25 a day from the date of the noncompliance grievance was filed until the date that there was compliance with the underlying grievance on June 6, 2024. No other remedy is provided, and no other remedy is warranted. The arbitrator retains jurisdiction for 90 days. A long decision, but we owe it to Elliott Simmons and that advocate. We owe them that, right? To read every sentence, every word. They're due that. They're owed that. For the way this union overreacted based off of one sorry-ass decision, who this arbitrator says in non-compliance of his own, of the terms of the agreement. This arbitrator blistered O'Connor, which is what we should have done. But there was something working behind the scenes. You have a union filled with cowardice and concession, parroting the Postal Service position that we're broke. Cease and desist is such a bad thing. It's criminal. We're going to do away with it. And you have a union agreeing with that. You have resident officers going around saying we're filing too many grievances, talking about escalated monetary awards. We have turned into postal management. You got great stewards that are giving up because of this. Great stewards. You got great advocates that are having their decisions paraded around by the union, talking about this is why we don't. Such fucking cowardice on the union's part. Vindication. That's what that is. Vindication. Justification for Elliott Simmons and what he's doing. Kicking management's ass. That's what that was. And so I wasn't going to do that. I was going to talk for about 10 minutes and let JB take over. But hey, you going to come out against them? I'm going to come out for them. That's my people. Y'all want to come out and talk all that stupid ass shit, send out emails, cowardly motherfuckers? I'm going to do the opposite. Right? You got to protect your stewards at all costs. Advocates, keep kicking ass, man. We will lose. We will lose. When you fight, you're going to lose. We will lose. Right? That's what I always go back to. You got these motherfuckers, these are fat-ass business agents and these other motherfuckers talking about, well, we fight. Never lost a fight, never lost a fight. Well, how many fights you been in? I ain't been in no fights, but I ain't never lost one either. Well, you'll never lose a fight if you don't get in there and fucking fight. That's true. That's true. You'll go down undefeated. It's just you've never fought anything. So I say fight. I say fucking fight. And if we lose, learn from it. Pick yourself up. Keep fighting. Advocates, do that. You will have decisions come in. I'm telling you, I've had 40 I don't agree with. That broke my heart, crushed me. You got to keep going. You got to keep fighting. Union, quit being cowardly motherfuckers and sending out emails saying this is why you don't do shit. Got fucking winos coming out of retirement starting podcasts talking about he did so bad. Don't do that. Don't you do that against other advocates. It's a tough job, man. Advocates keep kicking ass, right? Hey, y'all have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I love the shit out of you, man. I love you to death. I will not be back next week. What you're fixing to hear from JB. Have a pen and paper ready. Please, have a pen and paper ready. You're fixing to get education on steroids right here. The reports that he's going to talk to you about, most of you never heard of, okay? This Doist language, listen to it. What I reached out to James about JB's episode. I want Paul Bolanger and maybe JB to get together and do a white paper on this, okay? You know, the old white page we used to do. On this, it'll tell you what to request, what to do, and things like that. I think it'd be crucial because when you listen to JB, when you listen to what he's fixing to tell you, you're going to be astonished, I'm telling you. He is way ahead of everybody. No business agent has come out with this. JB is that far advanced of everybody else. Have a pen and paper ready. Okay? Have your pen and paper ready because he's fixing to lay it down on you like nobody. He's the best to me. He's the best at reports, getting management. He's the best. And so have your pen and paper ready, all right? So to those that the union went after on this decision, I read the whole decision for you, okay? That's vindication. It's vindication because of the overreaction of my union. That's it. That's it for today. Again, I will not have one next week because it's Christmas week. Again, y'all have a very Merry Christmas, a happy holidays to you. I'm going to be enjoying next week. I will be back the next week with some screenshots, kind of a year in review, okay? I love you, Light Blue. I love you. And y'all have a fantastic week. Be safe out there. Be safe. A lot of packages, a lot of stuff going on. And I'll talk to y'all on the other side of it, all right? Bye.
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration. I told you that I had a very special guest. I looked up a list of the world's rarest seen animals. And the pink fairy armadillo, I don't know if y'all ever heard about that. The pink fairy armadillo, that's one. The vegeta, that's a tiny porpoise. Vegeta, I don't know if you ever heard of that before. Northern white rhino. There's a Sayola. That's an Asian unicorn. And then the kekapo. Kekapo is a flightless parrot. But those are the world's rarest ever seen animals. And you can add to that list Jason Leith, JB. Because you only see him about once every 9 months. Yeah, you only see him about once every 9 months, so you can add him into that list. But I got my man back tonight. What's up, Holmes?
What's going on, brother? You doing all right, my man?
I'm doing good. It's good to have you back. Everybody's asking about you. Where's JB? I have to tell y'all this story. JB and I were in Cleveland at the rap session. We're at the reception. Remember that?
I do.
And we were at the reception, and people kept coming up to me and talking to me and stuff, and had this couple come up, and I was like, "Are you Corey?" Like, "Yes, I am." They're like, "We're so nervous." So you don't have to be nervous. Said, I deliver messages. They're like, "Can you introduce us to JB?" I said, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, we saw him over there. We know that's him. Can you introduce us to him?" I was like, "This motherfucker ain't been on in a year." And you go, but yeah, that's a good time
Lord.
though. We had a good time in Cleveland at the reception, but
No, it was a great time, Corey. I mean, it was humbling. It was motivational. It was a lot of things, but it was an absolute great time.
Yeah. And so you've been busy. I know you're going to tell everybody what's been going on. I'm not going to do that for you, but we talk often, and I was going to do a section that you're going to do today and you basically said, "Hey, why don't you just let me do that?" Because I was like, okay, now you do this, and this is this, and this. And he's like, hey, let me just come back on and do it. I was like, all right, brother, you can do that. So you're going to do it, but it's when you was telling me about it, people have got to know. They've got to know what you did, and I want you to tell. I don't know what you was planning on telling, but how you got the supervisor, how you trapped the supervisor, and because it's very important, very important. Anytime
Mm-hmm.
we can get somebody like you did them, how they're stealing from us basically is what they're doing with these packages. And so I'm gonna leave all that up to you, brother. But I appreciate you, my man. You know I love you, and I'll holler at you tomorrow. But this is all you, my man. All right.
Brother, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me back on. Volunteer, however you want to say it. It's good to be back, Holmes. So I can't thank you enough for, allowing me to come back on here this evening, Corey. And, we was discussing not too long ago the topic for tonight. And yeah, you were right. You definitely wanted to get this information out there to the listeners. And I think it's extremely important because I was extremely taken back when I discovered, what was being reported into our assignments. And so, as I was speaking to you about it, and this initially started with a completely different grievance, but no, the more we talked about it and to want to get this information out there, I am very privileged to have the opportunity to come out here tonight. I've told everybody in the past, if it helps one person, it is completely worth every bit of the time, that it takes to get this opportunity to speak to everyone. So again, I feel extremely privileged. Thank you for having me. And so it has been a minute, and I appreciate being in company with such rare animals, but it is, I'm a father of 3 kids. I got a grandson now who's 2 years old. And, my youngest son, my only son, but my youngest child, he loves sports. And I mean, after 2 girls, and I love them to death, but growing up with, all the girl stuff and the Barbie dolls and the, doing things for them. And then to have a son and being able to capture some times with him and through athletics and stuff, it has been a blast. And he has, just a quick recap. He's a fantastic baseball player. I mean, he really is for a young kid, good little young man, loves to play ball. And, about 2 years ago, I think I told y'all we stepped out of the recreational league and started playing a more competitive type league with a, more traveling and tournament style play. And man, it has been a blast. This year was really, really good. The boys that we got on this team, they're top notch. I mean, they're just great young men fixing to be growing into men. And so to have an opportunity to be a part of their lives and, build the structure and hopefully the foundation in them and instill some competitive skills and instill some, abilities to have a foundation and structure. I've had a wonderful time, but it has been a lot. And being a coach and helping organize and keeping up with tournaments and fees and making sure everything's got accommodations, it has certainly been a full-time extracurricular hobby. So, but other than that, I mean, hey, it's been business as usual. If any other branch out there, any other steward out there has been extremely busy this year, I'm right there with you. I mean, brothers and sisters, it's been nonstop. And as the Formula A representative for Nashville, I'm also the shop steward at some of the stations within the installation. And I tell people sometimes this year has completely flown by. I can't get over how fast 2025 is. And sometimes I joke about it, but I mean, it literally has kind of turned into grease, meat, sleep, repeat. You know what I'm saying? It's I shut the door on Friday and I'm off on Saturday, Sunday. And, I come back Monday morning or get cranked up and it's like, I close the door on Friday, ending one week's problems, and I open the door up on Monday, facing a brand new week of problems. And so it has been nothing short of flat out getting it. So we've had several arbitrations too this year, and some of those I know Corey has read some of the decisions on his episodes, and we've been very fortunate and blessed with some of the awards that we've gotten back, and that is a culmination of all four steps outworking management in the grievance process. The stewards that I have in Nashville are the finest. I put them up against anybody. The new ones have hit the ground running. This is the first year of their term, and they have put themselves and dedicated themselves to learning and learning how to represent grievances at the informal step A, how to build that case file, the information that they want to receive to support their burdens. And so they have done a tremendous job. They've dedicated themselves to coming to training and to learning about the contract, and really devoted and inspired me. And they may not know that, and I try to tell them that, but you know, we're always is only as good as the step before us. And so if the informal steward is outworking management and doing their job at the informal step A level, and then they pass on to me a grievance file that is representative of what they're trying to prove, that makes my job tremendously easier. If I'm doing my job as the formal step A, making a arbitration ready case file to move to the next step, then I'm doing my job. That gives my B team member the best case file to make a decision on. And then the advocate's job is to facilitate or orchestrate that play in a hearing. And, you know, and hopefully we're persuasive enough to get an arbitrator to understand our position and render a decision or award that's favorable to the issue that we raised. So I can't thank the Nashville installation, the branch 4 stewards, all of them for the hard work that they've done this year. When it comes to arbitration, Corey, you know, I miss you, brother. I mean, we've had some fantastic times in hearing. I wish I could probably sit on an episode and maybe two and go over story after story about going into hearings, and the chemistry that Corey and I had was unsurpassed. It really is. And Region 8, we've had some other great advocates that have come up and done our cases, and I'm so very thankful for them. But I do miss the days. Mr. Walton was my arbitration advocate. It's a kind of resembles what I call like Jordan and Pippen. You know, Corey was Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan made those around him superstars. And Corey made me a superstar in hearing. He gave me the opportunity to showcase, you know, skills and talents that I felt like he's helped me possess and that I've been built up and learned, and then to be able to showcase those. But we definitely left some marks on arbitrators in our time. So I'll say this, I do miss him, but I'll tell you even more, I'm thankful for the decision and for the commitment that he's made. He's been blazing the trail. I mean, it blows me away every single time I talk to him, and we talk every day, every other day. And people, he's out there. And when I tell y'all, I know Corey Walton better than anybody. If you want a man of principle, if you want a man that stands on business, Corey Walton's your guy. This individual means what he says, and he says what he means. And if he tells you, he's going to do it. I'll never forget that meeting we were in with the district manager where, and like so many meetings, me and him kind of laugh because we go into some of these and district or management is just pretty much taking the reins or taking the stage and telling you what they're going to do. We're going to do this and we're not going to do this anymore, and this is what's going to happen, and pretty much trying to tell us that this is the way it's going to be. And at the very end of it, I'll never forget Corey looking at the district manager and just said, well, we're not going to do that. I'm going to build a case for arbitration, and I'm going to show your ass better than I can tell you. And we got up, we pushed the chairs under the table, and we walked out, and we started right then preparing the case for arbitration. And I'll be damned if we didn't tell them what we was going to do, and then we showed their ass what we was going to do. But that's Corey Walton. If he tells you he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And so I am thankful that he has picked up this flag He took this torch and he's headed out on the trail to gain support for the CLC. And 2026 is right around the corner. And I hope the city letter carrier believes him when he says all he cares about is light blue. I promise you that's true, and I stand on it just like he stands on the business that he's telling y'all. Cleveland, we had a blast in Cleveland. That was fantastic. The rap session went up there. The reception had a lot of CLC individuals there. My branch president went with me. And speaking of her, couldn't ask for a better branch president. What she's done for Branch 4, what she's done here at this office, what she stands for, what she goes out and does for the letter carrier, what she does for the members, what she does for the officers, all of us, is unsurpassed. And so I will always give her praise and glory. Dana Chambliss has been a blessing to Branch 4, and she continues to push this branch in a direction of betterment for the membership. And so for her, I will always tell her thanks, and for the accomplishments that she's had, and for the many more accomplishments that she's going to receive. So thank you for her. But the rap session, it was humbling. I told Corey a minute ago, being there, surrounded by people, the amount of people that come up that, introduce themselves. And it has been a minute since I have done an episode. And so, you never know what you're going to receive, but I can't thank the individuals enough that walk up and take the moment to say, hey, that episode, and they know the episode numbers. They'll say that was beautiful. That helped me so much. Before these episodes, we weren't receiving any education. We weren't receiving any knowledge. We didn't have an outlet to try to represent our brothers and sisters. And without what you guys have done, and without the episodes, we wouldn't be anywhere. And so the sincere thank yous that came, it really blessed me. And I want everybody to know that, because I want to do the best that I can. I want to help anybody that I can help. And for those to show the appreciation, I want you to know that I appreciate you. I can't thank you enough for the inspiration and for the feedback that you've given me. Corey's given me a lot of compliments, and I'll never pretend that I am the greatest at this. I think I do my best. I think I do a great job, or a good job, the best that I can. But if it helps somebody to help another, that's what we're here for. That's what unionism is. That's what activism is paying it forward. It doesn't do anybody any good to not pass on to help another brother or sister represent their members. And so I just want to say thanks to those who gave me a thank you. Special shout out to each and every one of the individuals that came up, shook my hand, told me their story, sang the praises for the podcast, for the episodes. So I will always be humble in that aspect, and I will do my best to stay engaged and offer additional episodes when I can. It's something that I do enjoy doing, but time, you know how it is, a grandson, 3 kids, home life, everything. It's hard sometimes, so forgive me, but I do enjoy having the opportunity. So hopefully maybe the next couple of months, we're without baseball right now. He does play basketball, ironically, but I don't coach basketball. And that's great, because I'm enjoying sitting in the bleachers with my feet up and getting to just watch and enjoy and seeing the full game, instead of constantly coaching and making adjustments through games when you miss so much. So without any further delay, let's just jump right on into it. The topic that we're going to discuss tonight is actually something that we are currently investigating and moving through the grievance process ourselves. But when I discovered it, I was discussing it with Corey and telling him what, had came to light. And he did. He had asked if I would send him the information that I had received and investigated, and that he wanted to get this out there and to go ahead and educate everybody on what is going on, or what could be going on. And so when I sent him the information, yes, we did review it, like I said, and he had asked if, would this be something that I would come on and try to portray, because it's not visual, it is verbally, but do my best to try to portray, what we're looking at and, what we're going to try to investigate and grieve. And I said, sure. And so this really started off another grievance. How many times have you submitted an information request, and upon the receipt of said information, you discovered an additional violation? And that's exactly what took place here, because the initial grievance was about the disposition of 3996s. Now, if y'all remember back in episode 52, I felt like we extensively covered the 3996 process and the improper use of time estimation tools, also known as DOIS or PET, and how management has been using those as the sole determinant for the approval or disapproval of overtime. Well, I've always thought, and I've always said, in my opinion, the PS Form 3996 is probably the most confrontational form in all of the Postal Service, because the form is asking management, or telling management, in my opinion, it's telling them that in order to distribute everything in order to deliver everything that's been distributed to my assignment today, I'm going to need additional time, which equates to additional money. And what does the Postal Service want to do? They want to cut out any additional money. The letter carrier craft is by far the most scrutinized, raked over craft in all of the Postal Service, in my opinion. I go to stations after stations throughout the week. My boots stay on the ground, people. And I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a station and I see management wasting money. I see money being wasted on management. I see clerks or custodians. They're not being scrutinized. They're not being monitored. They're not being questioned about every second of their day. But a letter carrier talks or stops for 30 seconds, and what do they want to do? They instantly want to try to jump on a letter carrier for time waste and practice, or we need to hurry you up. We are the most pushed craft in all the Postal Service. But the 3996 will always be confrontational, because it is the letter carrier telling management they're going to need additional time, which equates to additional money. Now, we have fought very, very hard in Nashville in Branch 4. We have filed grievances for my entire time up here as Formal Step A since 2017. And up until recently, we were able to support our position to the point where a resolution needed to be put in place in hopes to reduce the amount of grievances over 3996 dispositions. It had gotten to the point where management, no matter what you put on there, management 101 is, if a letter carrier requests an hour, give them 30 or give them nothing. If they ask for 2, give them 1. That's management 101. They always want to try to push a letter carrier into believing or performing or skipping breaks to accomplish management's goal. But we, as letter carriers, need to maintain the efficiency and the safety that it takes to diligently perform our duties. But we had pushed management to the point through the grievance process where we were able to obtain a resolution that I'm extremely proud of. I think it has, well, I know for one, it has astronomically reduced the amount of grievances on management improperly disapproving overtime requests, whether it was based on DOIS, whether it was based on PET, any type of other time estimation tool. But essentially, the grievances rose to the point of a resolution was needed to hope to reduce the amount of grievances and to give management an understanding of their responsibility when handed a request for overtime or auxiliary assistance. I'm going to read you this resolution, And then we're going to segue into the subsequent grievance that rose off this. The resolution that we have in place, I'll read to you the remedy. Management will cease and desist, failing to properly act on the amount of all time requested by the carrier in Section K of PS Form 3996. Management will act promptly and give clear and concise instructions under Section L as to the disposition of all the time requested by carriers in Section K of PS Form 3996. Second bullet point. Management will instruct the letter carrier either to deliver all of the mail and make the resulting overtime requested under Section K of the PS Form 3996, provide auxiliary assistance, or provide auxiliary assistance / overtime to properly satisfy all the time requested by the carrier under Section K of the PS Form 3996 in its entirety. If management does not wish to do one of those three, and they disapprove the carrier's request, they have the right to do so only if they walk with the carrier and perform a PS Form 3999 on the day the form was submitted. I'm going to stop right there. That has been beautiful for the people here in Branch 4. And that was something I was extremely proud to get memorialized, that management is actually going to have to do their damn job. Get up off your ass. If a letter carrier submits for what they feel like is improper, then they need to get a jump seat and get in the back of the vehicle and go out there and perform an efficiency evaluation. Instead of sitting on their ass behind the desk and taking out a pen and just disapproving the 3996 based off some computer system, they may never say that's what they utilize, but we all know that's what they utilize. But instead, now they are required, if they disapprove a 3996, to get up and go out and perform a 3999. But guess what they still do on occasion? On occasion, they still disapprove the request and they don't perform the 3999. Moving on through the resolution, the formal A parties direct management to the following. Step 4, M document 00385, which reads as follows. The proper stipulated manner for determining the efficiency of an employee and whether or not the employee is in fact meeting standards is to conduct a one-day count as provided in handbooks M39 and M41. The formal A parties agree management will cease and desist the use of DOIS projections or any other time measurement tool as the sole basis for adjusting the carrier's PS Form 3996. The use of DOIS or any other time measurement tool does not change the letter carrier's reporting requirements outlined in Section 131.4 of Handbook M41, the supervisor's scheduling responsibilities outlined in Section 122 of the Handbook M39, or the letter carriers and supervisors' responsibilities contained in Section 28 of the M41. Management will cease and desist from willfully and egregiously violating Article 15 of the National Agreement and Postal Policy Letter M-01517 by failing to comply with previous grievance resolutions, instructing management to cease and desist. And most importantly, the last bullet point states, in accordance with Article 15.2E, this formal Step A resolution will be precedent in all Nashville installation stations and will be utilized to dispose of any future similar related problems for management failing to give an entire disposition of all estimated time on PS Form 3996 Block K. Future violations will result in monetary award to ensure compliance. So that is a resolution that was fruits of the grievance process. And that resolution has reduced the amount of combative arguments between letter carriers and management. The instructions given in that resolution, provide that if management chooses to disapprove a 3996, they must perform a 3999, a ride-along, with the carrier on the day the form was submitted. That has been huge for the letter carries here. That doesn't mean we still haven't had grievances. It just means we have reduced the number by 90%. But here, about a month ago, a station manager decided that morning they were going to disapprove the 3996s. It was a day after holiday, Veterans Day, and they disapproved the 3996s. And I know they utilized DOIS because in Management Section L, they wrote the base number for the route, and then they wrote the number that came from DOIS in the box. So I knew that they were basing their decision off of DOIS. So we initiated a grievance based on compliance with previous resolutions, and that you're still utilizing DOIS in the sole determinant for the approval or disapproval of a 3996 request. When I initiated the information request, obviously we asked for all the PS Form 3996s submitted on date. Since I knew that they were utilizing DOIS, we requested the daily volume recording sheets. Those are the sheets that management utilizes when they come in the morning and they either take a ruler or a measuring stick or yardstick, whatever you call it, and they go around doing linear measurements. Now, while we don't recognize linear measurements, that's just what management utilizes to record the data or record their volume on their recording sheet, and then they input that volume into DOIS, which then converts it into minutes. Once that conversion is done, DOIS then generates what is called the workload status report. The workload status report is going to be based off of management submission of data. What's important in this case is management has to accurately record volume and other data into DOIS accurately. So once we received the information, I started investigating it and realized that there was some discrepancies, or felt like there was some discrepancies. Management had also stated that they felt like the previous resolutions that I had just read were improper, that there is nothing that states in any handbook or contract or manual provision that states that they have to conduct a 3999 if they disapprove with a 3996 request. My response was Article 15 incorporates compliance with previous grievance settlements. And M document 1517 also states that no supervisor or manager has the authority to override a grievance settlement. That was the stipulated manner that was agreed to for all Nashville stations on how management will handle 3996 requests in the Nashville installation. And it had been memorialized more than once. I would say up to somewhere around 40, 50-ish times. But they had made me aware that they were going to challenge it. So obviously, when you know that we're not going to resolve a grievance at the lowest possible step, utilizing previous resolutions to dispose of similar like problems, you automatically gear up and start moving yourself in the direction of building your defense and trying to close in any opportunity from management to get by on what they've previously agreed to. But as I'm looking at the workload status report, what immediately jumped out to me was the number of parcels and spurs that were being indicated as being out for distribution or out for delivery on each assignment. I was looking, now this is November 12th, people. We are busy, and we still have a lot of Amazon packages here in Nashville installation. So our package volume is still heavy. But as I'm looking at the parcel numbers and the spurs, the SPRs, I'm seeing numbers that are astronomically low, that I feel like in my mind can't be right. And since management has the responsibility to accurately record data and other volume in DOIS, I 100% wholeheartedly believe that they had failed in this mission. I use this in support, and this is what tonight's grievance is about. And this is the direction we're moving in. And this is what I'm hopeful will help educate you guys on how to investigate if this is going on in your station or your installation, but how you can hold management accountable so that they start accurately reflecting the amount of volume or data being associated to an assignment on each given day. And I get this support from a couple things. One is M document 01664. Now, this document, this settlement, it's an interpretive step 4 agreement, is historically known as the Doyce memorandum. You know, we went over it numerous times. We went over it in episode 52. I know Corey numerous times has went over it in previous episodes. But the Doyce memorandum is historically known for the first paragraph. And we'll go ahead and read that. The Delivery Operations Information System, DOIS, is a management tool for estimating a carrier daily workload. The use of DOIS does not change the letter carrier's reporting requirements outlined in Section 131.4 of Handbook M41. The supervisor's scheduling responsibilities outlined in Section 122 of Handbook M39, or the letter carrier's and supervisor's responsibilities contained in Section 28 of Handbook M41. DOIS projections are not the sole determinant of a carrier's leaving or return time or daily workload. As such, the projections cannot be used as the sole basis for corrective action. A 5-minute time credit for lines 8 through 13 will be added, or when route inspection data is available for lines 8 through 13. The actual average information will be used for daily workload projections. But this next paragraph, often not viewed, is what this grievance is about. And it states, management is responsible for accurately recording volume and other data in DOIS. That language is clear and unambiguous. It is management's responsibility to accurately record volume and other data in DOIS. That doesn't give permissive language to just record what they want. They must record that data that reflects what we have been distributed to our assignment. That is what is out for delivery on that day. It was my belief at the moment I received the workload status report, management wasn't doing that. Now, for those of that you know, for those that don't know, the way DOIS receives our package and spur data comes from those places that have maybe one of three things. They have the pass machine. That's the machine in the middle of the floor that the clerks stick the barcode up underneath. It tells it what route to distribute the package or spur to, and then they throw the package or spur towards that assignment. And then that data uploads into DOIS. Or they can use those DSS ring scanners, same thing as the pass machine, but they use the ring scanner. Scans the barcode, the voice comes out and tells it what route to distribute it on. Or some of these larger stations, they have what is known as the ESDUS or the SDUS, the small delivery unit sorter, you know, where the gaylord dumps over into the sorter, and then the barcode, you know, it passes up underneath the machine, and then once it goes down the conveyor belt, it slides off into the appropriate gurney. That information then uploads into DOIS. And that is what's reflective on the workload status report. Now, when you request the workload status report, they can print this report at any time, but you want the latest, the last workload status report. You can even request the work hour workload report for all routes. That will also show you the parcel post, or it'll say PP column, and that will indicate what parcels, the number of parcels that were distributed to that assignment. You can even request the DOIS Route Carrier Daily Performance Analysis Report. That report is a day after report. That shows what took place. It also has tags uploaded to it, so it shows actual times. But it will also show what your route showed as far as parcels and spur counts. So those are 3 reports that we can request that will show what management inputted into DOIS as a reflection of our assignment on a given day. So I'm reviewing these reports. And like I said earlier, I saw a route that had a parcel post number of 5. 5 packages is what DOIS was indicating this route showed for the day. I'm not sure in the 15 years I've been delivering mail, I've ever came into my station and looked over into my hamper, and I don't never having the choice to look over in the hamper. When I walk in, I can see packages at the top of my hamper, but I've never walked in and seen only 5 packages dancing around in the bottom of a hamper. Like I said, I've always came in and those packages are sticking up, if not already working on a second hamper. I've had more than 5 packages sitting on the ground right by my case waiting on me when I clock in, let alone their reports. And this is the bullshit I'm talking about. These are the exact reports that they're walking around the workroom floor with in the morning, having confrontational conversations with letter carriers, berating them over their 3996 requests and areas, challenging them about the overtime that they need, threatening letter carriers about they will not receive any additional time. This is the report that they're relying upon. And I don't think it's just coincidental here. I've already had a couple of conversations with friends that I have in other places that similar type activity is going on there. And so that was kind of the importance that Corey wanted to get this information out there so you can begin your investigation. So you can then therefore determine what kind of accurate reflection management is inputting in these reports. And this is the reports that management is using, like I said, that is making the sole determinant decision on whether you're receiving overtime or not. But how are we going to disprove those reports? Not a lot of letter carriers across the country, may count their packages. It would be nice if we could get a statement from a letter carrier that says, on this date, I had this amount of letters, this amount of flats, this amount of, buckets of spurs or this amount of spurs. I also had, an estimate of 55 to 65 parcels. It would be nice if we can get that. And if we can, we want that. We want that brother or sister to write a statement, to put in our case file to go with the other information. But how are we going to disprove, and what is available to us as shop stewards at our disposal to be able to request from management to disprove what they've inputted in DOIS to support our burden for a violation of M document 1664? There's a couple of reports out there, and we've talked about them before, but we're going to utilize them here. I believe back in episode 65, I went over this report out of DMS, the Delivery Management System. We utilize this report for different things. It might show another employee on the assignment because their EIN, or in some instances, it'll show their actual name of an individual performing work on this route through scanner data. Or we might utilize it to show that management was out there utilizing a scanner that they had logged into to make deliveries. But this report here is also going to be beneficial in supporting our burden to show a violation of M document 01664. I also want to read, before we talk about that report, out of the M39 handbooks, this is also a provision that we could contend a violation of out of management's responsibilities. The M39 is management's handbook. But in the very, very beginning, in chapter 1, you'll see section 111.2, daily operations. And it states, the delivery service manager must, on a daily basis, under letter E, report for duty in advance of delivery personnel and review daily workload. including mail yet unworked, by which will be distributed in time for the day's delivery. Review any Forms 1571 undelivered mail report from the preceding day, as well as the amount of mail on or around each carrier's case. But lastly, estimate and record on the appropriate forms the daily workloads for each route. So that goes hand in hand with 1664, that they're a responsible party for recording the daily workload for each route. Lastly, letter Q, maintain the data collection devices and supporting infrastructure. Make sure all data collection devices are in working order and information is downloading properly. So that is their responsibility, and that coincides with 1664. Whatever's going on from the uploading from the PASS machine or the DSS or the Estes machine, whatever is happening, it is not uploading the correct data into DOIS. And like I said, now this is the form management is walking around the room with and having what they call, quote unquote, a conversation with a letter carrier about their 3996. I've told y'all before, my conversation's on the 3996. I'm not having a conversation. I've already conversated in writing. So I need you to make a disposition on that conversation in writing. I'm not going to go back and forth. If you disapprove it, and in Nashville, you don't choose to walk with me, I'm going to file a damn grievance. But nevertheless, I'm not going to go back and forth and have an argument on the workroom floor. So back to the reports that are out there so we can support our position in the grievance process. So we're going to utilize the DMS report that comes from Delivery of Management System, Street Route Detail Report. For those of you that are familiar with it, you know what I'm talking about. For those that are not, go to episode 65. You can click on a DMS report. It'll show you an example of one. And this is what's important. And this is what I was taken back when I reviewed these reports upon request, comparing them to the workload status report. You can pull this report up, and it will show in sequential order all the scannable deliveries that you had for the day. So the workload status report shows all your SPRs, all your parcel posts for that day. Those are all scannable items that were uploaded from the PASS machine that have barcodes, because that's how they were scanned in, and that were distributed to our assignment. And then the DMS report is actually going to show an accurate reflection of what the letter carrier actually delivered as a scannable item. Whether it's a spur, whether it's a package, it will show the number that we had for the day. Another report that we do have is out of RIMS, the Regional Intelligent Mail Server. But you can request out of RIMS scan records. There are 5 different ways that you can request those scan records. And if you go to episode 72, in that episode, if you look online out to the side under links or attachments, the complete RIMS user guide is on there. And under section 3.3 gives you the exact information on how to request these reports. You can ask them or request them by label. You can request them by device ID. In most cases, I utilize it to request information by route ID, by route number. You can request them by zip, or you can request them by date. So depending on your investigation, whether you're going to do it for each individual route, whether you want to do it by the zip code, I imagine that would be pretty extensive. But nevertheless, how you decide to request those are the available options on how you can submit your information request to management. When I received these reports, I told you a second ago, I was taken back. The discrepancy between the workload status report that this manager was using in the disapproval of a 3996 request versus the actual scannable deliveries that these letter carriers made was tremendous. I'm going to give you a few examples or tell you what a few of these examples were. Route 2 in this station, on the workload status report, it showed 34 SPR and parcel post, 34 scannable deliveries. When we reviewed the DMS report, it showed that 83 scannable deliveries were made on this day. On Route 4, under the workload status report, it showed 49 combined SPRs and parcel post. But actually, DMS showed 123 scannable deliveries on this day. On Route 6, 34 items were being shown on the workload status report, but DMS indicated 95 scannable deliveries on this day. The workload status report for Route 8 showed only 26 SPRs and parcel post. DMS indicated that there were 74 scannable deliveries made on this date. And lastly, Route 10, it showed in the workload status report only 24 SPRs and parcel post, but DMS indicated 77 scannable deliveries for this day. This is bona fide proof. This supports our burden that a violation of 1664 has occurred. And we're going to have to address this through the grievance process. We're going to have to force management to fix whatever is going on, that an accurate reflection is not being uploaded to indicate a proper evaluation of my assignment on that given day. Whether we ever acknowledge DOIS or not, management is required to accurately reflect data and volume and DOIS for each letter carrier's assignment. And the grievance process is the only way we're going to force management to fix it. Whatever is going on with the internal technology is none of my concern, or do I know how to fix it? I'm not an IT specialist. What I do know how to do is file a damn grievance in hopes to encourage you to fix the shit that is being used to have a confrontation with a letter carrier on the workroom floor over a 3996 request when you're sitting there staring at visibly inaccurate data. What was also troubling, and since we're on the topic, some of the 3996 requests indicated mail that didn't go out for delivery or had been brought back on the 10th of November, the day before a holiday. November 11th, the holiday, we come back on the 12th. It was stated that a CCA, struggled on the assignment. At the end of the day, they had to bring back some of the mail on that assignment. It was not recorded on a 1571, but I did request what is known as the DCV report. The DCV report stands for Delivery Condition Visualization Report, the curtail report. Used to in DOIS, and some places still do, they would have what is known as the CSDRS report, which also is where management would indicate or input curtailment either on the clerk side or the city carrier side. But now they have the Delivery Condition Visualization Report. Once we requested this report, there was no mail indicated in this report. There was no mail being shown curtailed from a previous day's assignment or previous day's delivery. The 3996 that was disapproved by management indicated that there was 3 trays of DPS, 2 trays of flats, and then packages from that date. But when you reflect it or compare it to the workload status report, the workload status report didn't indicate any of that volume. And yet the manager was notating in block L the base number compared to the day's number. It was only what had been distributed that day, and it didn't even reflect the amount of parcels and spurs accurately. So now we have another report that management is not accurately recording the volume and data in DOIS. So we can utilize these reports to support our burden because this is a contract case. We're alleging a contract violation of the M document 1664. So that burden rests upon our shoulders. And the way we support our burden is through postal programs and information that we can request for them. We'll take statements from letter carriers too, and we'll utilize those, but it's even better to have 100%, just bona fide proof. So these reports are super beneficial into utilizing the grievance process. Corey stated earlier that he had asked or wanted me to go over, the interview that I conducted with the station manager. Interviews are powerful weapons at our disposal because I haven't been an arbitration advocate very, very long, but I've been in numerous hearings as a formal Step A witness. But I've been in enough hearings as an arbitration advocate to know management is going to get coached before hearing. That labor rep, that advocate for management is going to get with them and they're going to prep. And they're going to prep them on the story that they want them to tell them, the story that they have the opportunity to portray in hearing. The power of an interview is to limit the boundaries that individual will have when it comes to hearing. You'll hear it called, we'll go ahead and establish the record. We'll go ahead and set the record. They're not going to be able to give you an answer in an interview at informal or formal Step A level and then walk into hearing and then completely change their story. That would be astronomical in that event. Nevertheless, we want to utilize the power of an interview to go ahead and establish the record on the reasoning of things. So once I got this data, I formulated an interview and I arrived at the station, introduced myself to the manager who I used to meet with across the table at formal Step A. So I know she's familiar with myself and the grievance process, or at least to some extent of the process. But she sat down, a little bit arrogant, a little bit cocky, tapping her nails. Let's go ahead and get this interview started. She didn't realize that I had at my disposal what I had with all these reports. But as I'm walking her down the road, and she's like most supervisors and managers, they're not just going to come out and say, I use DOIS. But you got to take the things that they give you. And she wasn't going to be able to get away from her notation in block L of the base number and the today's number, because the today's number was the exact number from the workload status report. So that was one thing she was not going to be able to get away from, even if she says she didn't use DOIS, which she did. So as I asked her about, does she measure the mail? She said, yes. What do you measure it with? She said, a ruler. Once you measure the mail, where do you record that data? In the computer. Is there a program in the computer that you record this data in? Yes, it's DOIS. Is there a status report that is generated based off this data? Yes, the workload status report. Do you use the workload status report to approve or disapprove overtime? No. I use my own personal tool that I created. Well, that immediately sent off a flag. That immediately sent off a flag because I know in M document 1769 that the demonstrated performance tool in the greater Indiana district or any other similar like time-like projection system tool can't be utilized. So I knew right then and there that she was already violating this document. But I knew she was comparing it. I asked her to go ahead and retrieve a copy. I'd like to see the personal tool. So she comes back. It has the base deliveries on the route. It has the base parcels for the route. It has the base DPS for the route. And then it has any new growth on the route. Essentially, the report doesn't say anything about any given day. It's just a base number. Without comparing this report to something, you wouldn't be able to make any type of judgment unless you compared it to something. So I began to walk her down that ledge to where she finally admitted, yes, well, I do compare it to the workload status report. But what was priceless is when I asked her, is the number of spurs and parcels on the workload status report the amount of scannable deliveries a letter carrier has on a given day? She said yes. And I said, well, would you look at Route 2? How many scannable deliveries, spurs and parcels, did this letter carrier have on this day? She gave me the number. I said, then why does DMS show 83 deliverable or scannable deliveries on this date? And she says, well, I don't know. She's not going to be able to come back at another time and be able to explain it away. So we want to constrain them as much as possible through an interview. We went route by route, getting her answer on the record for why there is a discrepancy between the workload status report and between the DMS reports that we were able to pull. We were also able to ask, was there mail brought back, curtailed, or delayed from the day before the holiday, which she acknowledged yes. Did you report this mail in the DCV? I would have to look. But you don't have to look. I got the report right here. And so I always love the surprise element. When you surprise, gotcha. But anyway, you slide the report. And she says, well, I guess we didn't. Can you show me on the workload status report where it indicates or reflects this volume that was delayed or curtailed from the previous day's delivery, which she stated she could not. So we utilize the power of an interview to go ahead and minimize down the road answers. So in the event this doesn't get resolved and it goes to step B, or if it goes to potential arbitration, we have now limited management's opportunity to go outside the responses that they have already given. Always, in any event that you can, an interview is a very, very powerful tool at our disposal. I want to encourage everybody that if you have requested or you're going to request, to take a look and to see if the amount of data that they are putting in is anywhat an accurate reflection of our assignment, specifically when it comes to the spurs and the parcels that are being notated in here. We've got to address this through the grievance process. I was talking to a friend in another location, and upper management was getting on lower management. And anytime lower management is feeling the heat from upper management, then who then suffers from the heat? It's the letter carrier. And they were threatening a start time change because they were alleging that the workload didn't indicate being in the office as long, or they weren't hitting the street or breaking the geo fence in time, and it wasn't indicative from the amount of volume that was being distributed to their assignment. Management has weaponized start time change. They have weaponized it all over the country. We battled it here in Branch 4. Luckily, we came out on top. A good friend of mine was assigned as an advocate for these cases. They were on the doorstep of hearing. He was able to negotiate a resolution that was very lucrative for the carriers here in Branch 4, and I thank him tremendously. He did a fantastic job, my good buddy up there in Kingsport. But he was able to facilitate that resolution. But he understands how management has weaponized start time change and hopes to try to flex upon the letter carrier. Meanwhile, upper management is viewing inaccurate data. Inaccurate data at the local level that is being put into DOIS that is not indicative of what's actually being distributed to our assignment. We've got to challenge this through the grievance process. We're going to request this information. Listen through the episode and notate the information that we went over. Whether it be the daily volume recording sheets, we're going to want the workload status report. We are going to want the work hour workload report for all routes. We are going to want the DOIS route carrier daily analysis performance analysis report. We're going to want all the 3996s for that day. and we're going to want the DMS, street route detail report, for those assignments that we're investigating. We're going to want the RIMS, scan records by route for that date, for those routes that we're investigating. And we're going to cross-reference those reports with those reports, if that makes sense. We're going to take the workload status, the route carrier daily, the work hour workload, we're going to put them on the left side. And then we're going to take the DMS and the RIMS reports, and we're going to put them on the right side, and we're going to cross-reference them from what was indicated we had to what was actually scanned and delivered on that date. And if that number is not matching up, that is management inaccurately recording that data in DOIS, which is at the detriment of the city letter carrier and my assignment, and is a direct violation of M document 01664. I have an issue statement for this grievance and hopes to help get you started. It's something similar to this, but it's going to be, did management violate interpretive step settlement in DOIS dated July 30th, 2007, M document 01664, via Article 15 of the National Agreement and the Postal Service Policy Letter M-01517 via Article 19 of the National Agreement, by failing to accurately record volume and other data in DOIS at the station/office, and if so, what should the remedy be? Now, why are we including 1517 in our issue statement, the Postal Service Policy Letter? We're incorporating that in because 1664 is a signed settlement. It is a step 4 interpretive settlement signed agreement, meaning two people sat down at a table and they came to an agreement. They made an agreement that management will accurately record data and other volume in DOIS. That was the agreement between two parties. Both parties stood up from that table, slid their chairs under the table, and we walked away from the table with the understanding that that step 4 settlement required compliance. So when we show a violation of 1664, we are also showing a violation of 1517 because no manager or supervisor has the authority to override a signed grievance settlement, arbitration award. Compliance is not optional. That is a violation of 1517, and that's why we are going to incorporate it into our issue statement. As for a remedy, what are we asking for as far as a remedy? Well, first and foremost, we want the problem to stop. We want management to cease and desist violating the interpretive step settlement for step 4 agreement 1664 via Article 15 of the National Agreement. We also want management to cease and desist violating M document 1517 or Postal Policy Letter 1517. We also want management to correct what they have done. So we're going to want management to immediately make corrections to DOIS and to accurately reflect for each letter carrier the volume that was distributed to that individual's assignment on a given day. We've got to challenge this through the grievance process, and we've got to start accumulating resolutions that are going to push management into fixing the problem. Whether it's just a local problem, whether it's a regional problem, a nationwide problem, whatever the case may be, even if they say it's a technology problem, well, we need to get somebody in there from IT to fix the technology problem so we are seeing an accurate reflection of our duty assignment on each given day. And the only way we're going to be able to pursue this is through the grievance process. Well, everybody, that's what I had to bring to the table today. And I hope that this is something that will help an individual out there. And I do encourage those to investigate and to make sure that our brothers and sisters, one, are getting an accurate reflection of their assignment. Two, this is the technology that management is using as could be to the detriment of one of our letter carriers, and management utilizing these reports to attempt to persuade somebody to achieve something that is not accurate. So if this is something that's going on in your area, I would encourage you or hopes that you will take issue with this and that this episode would be informative and assisting in that manner. But again, it was something that once I discovered it, I was immediately talking to Corey about it, and he thought it was of utmost importance to get out there to the listeners and to help, be able to challenge this and to get resolutions that will encourage management to fix this problem. I always want to say thanks. Thank you for every individual that has come up and shown gratitude. It is a blessing. It's very humble, and I can't thank you individuals enough for the generosity that you've shown me. Again, I'm hopeful that I'll be able to do more in the future, and I'm very supportive of Corey in any way that I can help. He knows that I will be there, but I hope everybody is able to, investigate this, and that if this is going on, that maybe this episode will assist you in being able to challenge it. Everybody out there listening, city letter carriers, nothing but love for each and every one of you. I can't thank you enough for all the hard work that you do, not only during this peak season, but all year long. This is definitely the busiest time of year for city letter carriers, and everybody in the Postal Service owes you a continual thank you. They owe you a continual thank you for the hard work that you've endured all year long and that you continue to endure through this peak season. Everybody in the Postal Service puts a damn paycheck in their pocket off the backs of city letter carriers, and it goes unnoticed too much. So I thank you, and I thank us for being able to have the opportunity to challenge this problem together. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Hope you have a safe time. Enjoy your time off, whether it's with yourself or family. Going into the new year, 2026 can't get here quick enough. I'm super excited. The CLC can't get here fast enough. I told y'all at the very beginning, my good friend Corey Walton stands on business. He's a man of principle. The CLC slate, James Henry, all the others, I have been tremendously impressed with the time that I've got to spend around them, the heart that they have for the city letter carrier, what they're desiring to do for the city letter carrier, the love that they have, it's unsurpassed. I encourage everybody to get involved in 2026, and let's take this union back. Until the next time, everybody, I love you. Corey, thank you, sir, and I look forward to the next time. Good night.